I'm here to tell you the awful fucking truth.
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I love.
Thank you so much for your support.
January, February, into March and April. Same way too.
Thank you.
May, June or July.
Fucking hell! Horrid!
I never
Absolutely
let a day
horrid!
go by
I give you shower and you snaky with me. What the fuck did I do to you?
Go away in August or September, in October and November, not to mention warm December. I love
Half a dozen pieces of fucking
so
shit!
another year has gone, I'm ready for the next one too.
If I can be with you.
Every single second, every minute, every hour, all the whole year too. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I love you.
I'm ArchieLuxury, tell me what you fuckers think of that!
Hello and good afternoon from Germany. Nope. Hello and good afternoon from Canada. It's Tan here. We are doing an Easter pre-show on the ArchieLuxury live stream. For those that may have the afternoon off or having a little bit of an early Easter weekend, and or for our European and Asian friends that are already probably starting their Easter weekend, I'll check who's in the chat here. We have our good friend Jonathan Quill Higgins, who says, "Fucking Patek Philippe with these boring watches and that boring Patek Philippe talk. When are you guys talking about serious horology?" Yes, we can address all serious horology. And I know you meant Patel and not Patek Philippe. And question to the panel, I believe that's just me. 1, watch the Lamborghini movie on Blu-ray tonight with a glass of red wine and Mrs. Higgins next to me. Or 2, click the bloody StreamYard link. Well, Jonathan, I would say you probably want to enjoy the movie with the wife. You've been streaming a lot, so if you guys got a movie plan, I would stick to the movie because I know that you've been waiting to watch that biopic. Got Neo in the chat, says, "Hello, humanity." How's it going, Neo? I don't know who has the afternoon off. Maybe some folks have it off. Maybe people are just listening in the afternoon at work, or those in Europe, I think, are already off. So got Hugh Jass in the chat, says, "Hey. Greetings to Yasha," and we got Kelsowitz. Let's go, boys. Kelsowitz and I have been talking between a couple of brands that I know that we've been talking about on the channel, between Grunefeld and Laurent Ferrier. And there's some Grunefeld watches I do like, and some Laurent Ferrier watches I like. So it's always a bit of a tough decision between those two. I was actually looking at a Grunfeld Principia this morning, and used prices are pretty high on them. They're like 60 grand US or something. So I was talking to Higgins about it, and I was like, well, for that kind of money, I'd probably be looking at a Complication, a Patek Philippe Perpetual Calendar, for example. Something, if I'm going to spend 60K, I'm probably not going to get a basic three-hander, automatic. But that's just me. Maybe other people feel differently. But yeah, we're going to get into some watch talk this afternoon. Go through whatever the panel or the chat wants to talk about. So if you guys have watch questions, feel free to drop them, and I will address any watch questions you guys have in the chat. In the interim, I will bring up my current favorite world timer, which is not the Celestial Voyager. It is the Ming World Timer that was just released. It's obviously a little bit of a joke, but the Ming World Timer, which I found whenever I look at world times, I always kind of look at the cities. And I just found it interesting that they really couldn't kind of make a decision between Melbourne and Sydney. It was just Mel/Sid. So I guess they didn't really want to piss off anybody in Australia if they're from Melbourne or from Sydney. But a couple different, obviously, That was one of the more interesting cities on the dial, I guess that you would say, is because they just couldn't really pick. Everywhere else seems pretty straightforward. Nothing too out of the ordinary. Instead of picking, for example, Auckland or Wellington, they just picked the entire country of New Zealand for this date for the date ring. Oh, we got a guest looking to join here, Mr. Jonathan Quill Higgins III. Good evening.
Hey, good evening from Germany. You're stealing my line, my shtick.
My favorite world timer is that the line that I'm stealing?
No, no. Hello and good evening from Germany.
Oh yeah, I saw you in the chat, so I was like, "Hello and good evening from Germany," but I'm like, "Nope, from Canada." We got $5 here from Neo. Hello, humanity. I really like the 24-hour display and the layout, but instead of bar separation, perhaps dots would look busy. Yeah, so he's talking about the Patek I had up on the screen. And I know Ali talked about this the other day, where he's kind of like, the 24-hour configuration. It's common enough. I mean, it's not like it's so unordinary that we would never have seen it before. But he says it's kind of inversed, where the 24-hour marker is at the 6 o'clock, whereas the 12 is at the 12 o'clock, and it's a bit. I don't know. It's a bit hard to read. I don't understand why Patek did it this way. It's based definitely on a gondola pocket watch, from what I remember. But yeah, it's just not one that I was really super interested in. I don't know, Jonathan, if you understand this watch, because I really don't.
Well, I think there is a similar Breitling with that 24-hour hand. So I don't get it as well why that is important. I appreciate that Patek is trying to do something different. Not sure if it's really along the Patek DNA, I would say.
No, I mean they're trying to say it is from a gondola. I could pull up the gondola. It's not. I looked at it, and even then I didn't really see it. It's just they had a 24-hour.
But maybe you want to explain the punters how to read that, because from what I found out, many people don't even know how to read the time and how this thing works.
Yeah, I mean, you clearly see it has a travel time hand, so you're going to have your two time zones, and then you got a 24-hour layout, which is extremely, like I said, extremely difficult to read in that layout, right? Whether you're using the outer, the outer hours or using the inner hours, for example, it's not going to be easy no matter what. I mean, you can clearly see, markers that can indicate hours, as well as the numerals that indicate hours as well. So you'll use your two time zones that way. It's just not, the layout's just not smart, in my opinion, and it shouldn't be easy. So you guys kind of talked about the 5212 earlier today, around somebody said it's too busy, right? And when I look at that when I look at the layout, like on the wrist, I can easily find the day, the month, the date, the time, everything is, it's spaced out a lot more than it would seem to be. In this watch, I would probably have a bit of trouble actually trying to figure out what time it is. Which
but isn't that the charm of this watch? Not sure if you know the watch from Karivuutilainen that he developed with I think psychologist that offers an alternative reading of time. And I would just make a counter argument, just to piss you off. Isn't the purpose of a watch to engage with it, to have deeper thought about it? Because you can't read the
I would agree.
You can't read the time on the fly on that. You really have to engage with the watch, and it gives you a different perspective and probably pulls you out of your routine. So from a philosophical point of view, I find that really interesting.
I think there's a certain limit, right? Like, I agree with you that there should be a certain level of detail that should be interesting and should have you probably, looking a bit closer at your watch to discover, because we do that all the time, right? There's certain things about our watches we discover when we take a loop to it. Not always the best thing to do if you don't want to see any imperfections, but I think that there's also a level of convenience that's important in wristwatches. And when it specifically comes to a complication like a travel time, for me, I want to quickly know what time zone, what's the time zone time that I'm looking for, as well as my home time. and I don't necessarily want to struggle to do that. And so if it's not, they could have an interesting dial layout, but it doesn't have to be difficult. And that's what I'm saying is I think there needs to be a level of convenience that's also associated. Similarly to a lot of calendar watches where people say the calendar watches are just too hard to read. They can appreciate that, it's got this great complication, but if it's extremely hard to read, people don't like it. And so it's people gravitate to a more simpler,
But
more minimalist designs, right?
again, I'll try to make the philosophical discussion with you. Uh, aren't we all a little bit too lazy and caught in this standard routine, and we see anything that is a little bit off the norm to be an inconvenience instead of discovering a new adventure, so to say?
Well, it's supposed to also have a purpose, right? The complication has to have a purpose. And so if the purpose is, significantly difficult to achieve, it loses its functionality. And so then the question then comes in is if it's not supposed to be functional, then is it artistic? And when I
Yeah.
look at something like this, I don't see that. I don't see, okay, yeah, sure. If they want to, if they want to compromise on, the actual usability of something, then where's the art, right? And obviously in the case back you can see it, but when it comes to this dial layout, I don't see it really becoming even an art piece because it's just it would make more sense if the 24 hours were at the 12 o'clock marker. So it's just a strange layout. Like it's just quirky is all it is. And some people like quirky. Some people like something
Yeah.
that's different, right? For me, it's okay, yeah, if you're gonna compromise on your functionality for a certain purpose, what is that purpose? And I don't think they're achieving it with this.
Yeah, but your definition on functionality is based on convenience.
Well, I think that your functionality should have, if something is difficult to read or difficult to get the information you're looking for, it loses functionality. It doesn't mean that it can't do it. It just means it
Mm.
doesn't do it as efficiently as something else.
I
And
would bet
so,
I would bet that if you had that watch for, let's say, 3 weeks on the wrist,
mhm.
you will have no problem reading the time.
Sure, you probably wouldn't. The issue is that like if you have to try to do something, if you really have to put
Yeah,
effort into it, especially when there's, when we talk about opportunity costs and you're talking about, how much is this piece? It's 55224R. How do
I
I
agree
find
with
it?
you that the travel time function is totally
Well,
obsolete
the question then
on the.
comes in for 57 or almost
Yeah.
60,000 US dollars, right? Like, is there just not something else you would buy? So yes, if I was gifted this watch and I wasn't paying 60 grand or I wouldn't have 60 grand opportunity cost, it may be one, yeah, I could learn to live with. But the reality is that do you really want to learn to live with something that's $60,000? Um, we got Neo
Well,
again
that's
here. We got Neo again here, $5. My favorite Rolex is the 5172G. I don't have a second favorite, but the watch, and I think he means the Patek Philippe, which is a chronograph, and I'll bring it up here. Complications and 5172G. Here we go. This is the updated version of the 5170 chronograph complication from Patek Philippe. Beautiful watch. I do love the blue dial. I do love the syringe hands, Arabic numerals. I think this is a very well laid out piece, and I do like the more casual strap that they're going. I'm actually trying to get this strap for the 5212 and also get the deployment buckle with it. They just have to.
for a balance point of view. Can you pull up the data graph in white gold with a black dial?
Yep. Elongated data graph. Well, black dial. Got a bunch of perpetual calendars here coming up. Here's an up down. Here is an up down. I can bring up an up down.
No. Chronograph.
Okay,
Chronograph
yeah, yeah, yeah.
1815.
Yes, I got it.
Not
I got
data
the.
graph.
Oh, not data graph.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Chronograph
18.
1815.
Yeah.
Black dial. White gold. The first time that I see you struggle.
Well, I thought you said data graph. That's why I was looking at it. And I was
Did
like,
I say data graph? Oh, I apologize.
that's what I thought it was.
Okay.
So here we go.
Sorry.
So here's your flyback
Yeah.
chronograph from Lange.
Here's my alternative.
He says the blue strap would look amazing on the 5212. Yeah, I think it would. I sent Higgins a picture of Kelsowitz. Maybe I'll see if I can find it. Let's see where that pictures went. I sent Higgins a picture this morning of the 5212 on a Grunefeld strap. Let me just pull. I think I said it to JJ's WhatsApp, so I'll see if I can pull it up here for you guys. Here it is. So this is the 5212 on the Grunefeld Buffalo strap. Hey, Higgins, you weren't impressed. You were like, I'd prefer Grunefeld. I'd get rid of the head of this watch and put a Grunefeld on it instead. But you were not feeling this strap with the 5212.
I'm not. For some reason, I'm not feeling that buffalo strap. To be honest, not. If I would order a Grönefeld, I wouldn't order this particular strap. But that is me, and everybody knows that I have no taste in straps, and my taste is way off the norm, and I will take every insult that goes with straps with my head high.
So this Grunefeld Principia is listed for about 47,000 US.
Yeah.
So a bit lower than what I've seen on other pieces. Obviously, probably because of the dial configuration, where the salmon dial and I think like the Tiffany blue are a little bit more sought after. I don't mind this silver dial. It's all right.
Yeah. But the
but-
salmon dial is nicer, isn't it?
Yeah, if I go to I think I saw it on the watch box where they had you have to actually view all brands because they don't actually show it on the main page.
Have I told you that I'm a dumbass and I passed on a Grönefeld?
You did. You said you could have got it for retail.
Yeah, no, below retail.
Retail.
The AD even offered me 20% discount.
Wow.
But that was at the beginning of COVID, and at the beginning of COVID, maybe you remember that a couple of dealers closed down, went out of business, and nobody really knew how COVID would affect this retail environment. And I was just hesitant in paying 50% upfront. That was my struggle that I had with that AD. And I told him, look, I really want the watch. The watch will arrive after 9 months, and I'm just having a hard time to put that money up front because I don't know if you're there in 9 months. That's what I told.
No, it makes sense, right? And I had the same problem, not because of a dealer I thought was going to go under, but it was for an FP Journe Chronomètre Bleu, and I think it was like maybe it wasn't even that much of a deposit. I think it was like 10 grand or something. And my only issue was they were like, well, it'll take a year. And I was just like, I don't know if this AD is just playing games and whatnot. But no, it was I was able to get one for retail. I passed up on it because I didn't want to wait and I didn't trust that the dealer was actually going to be able to come through. And this was way before the boom. This was like in 2016. We got Neil here with $2. A question for you, Jonathan. Jonathan, please provide an update on the cat. Well, I'll make you full screen here. There we go. It looks like the cat is fine at home, sleeping and enjoying life.
Very much, yes. I often look at him and think I wish I had his life. But then on the other hand, he wants to go out at night. A couple of days ago, he came with blood stains on his nose. So apparently he had a problem with another cat. So life outside is hard. It's not that easy.
Life is hard, boys. Life is hard. We got Foreman Colossus, who says, Kelsowitz, if you really felt buffalo, you'd get a headbutt. Did you know that more people are killed by buffalo in Yosemite than any other animal? I think we're supposed to call them bison now.
I remember when Blancpain was very fresh, they started with those cognac-colored ostrich strap, and very soon after they had elephant leather, and nobody really questioned where this elephant leather came from. And I remember that very soon after they scrapped the elephant leather rod.
Wow, yeah, that would definitely be controversial with elephant leather.
Yeah.
But
definitely. Yeah.
You know, it's weird because like in certain countries, you know, I was talking to, I think it was Hisham, who said he can't even get gator straps into India because it's a protected species.
Yeah.
Whereas other places, it's not as hard, for the sites piece. Because I know that's why Bill Slanders and them didn't do a gator strap because of issues with importing the leather into certain countries, right?
I can tell you if you import an alligator leather strap to the EU, it will be a nightmare. So guys, if anyone is selling a watch to the EU, make sure the buyer knows that there is no alligator strap on, because what happens is the watch will be stopped at the border, and you will have to prove that the alligator strap comes from a secure source, so that there are no wild alligator being killed for that strap, and that is virtually impossible to do. The problem is once it's being stuck in customs and the authorities are being involved, it takes weeks and months until your watch is being released, and the buyer will probably be subject of a punishment because dealing with those kind of straps is illegal unless you prove that it comes from farmed alligator leather. So be very careful with Europe and alligator straps. It's almost impossible to get them legally in the country.
On the topic of world timers here, Jonathan, what's been your take? I don't think I've talked to you about the Ming. I think I've sent you a couple of jabs about the Ming, but I don't think I've actually sat down and talked to you what you thought about Ming's new expensive world timer.
I've seen it. To be honest, I didn't have the time to look into that. What I don't understand is I assume that one of those rings is moving. Otherwise, there wouldn't be a world timer functionality. But I couldn't get the information out if both rings are moving, just like with a traditional world timer, if only the inner ring is moving and you can't change the time zone. The watch doesn't interest me because €20,000 for a Ming is a little bit excessive to me. I took a bath with that beautiful moon face that they issued. That is still here, and I struggle to sell it. So at the moment, I'm keeping it. It's beautiful. The movement finishing is beautiful. It's certainly a nice watch. I'm not interested in. I didn't really have the time to dig deeper into that. And the problem is, those watches will be delivered in 1 year, so nobody really has one now to have a hands-on or something.
So they're saying its price is 19,500 Swiss francs with a 50% deposit upon ordering.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's definitely a lot higher than the price points I think people are used to with Ming. And then the question comes in, is this the right move? Like, A, is a world timer the complication to actually go for to try to capture, a $20,000 market, number one. And, I mean, while, this loom shot is really cool.
Yep.
I would anticipate it should function like a normal world time where you're mentioning both discs move. But again, I haven't really seen it. I haven't dug into it or seen a video. I'm just looking at the aesthetics of it. I don't dislike it, but again, right? Would you spend your 20 grand on this? Is this who's buying this watch necessarily, right?
There's a beautiful world timer from Chopard that has been recently issued. I think that is also around 20,000. I would rather get the Chopard than the Ming, to be honest. Although the Chopard probably doesn't have the nice loom.
What's the which world timer is it? I'm familiar with the Time Traveler one.
I think it's LUC collection, and they have a world timer, but I'm not sure. I'm taking my iPad and try to find it.
Yeah.
You should be able to find it on the Chopard webpage. Chopard's
website. I don't frequent that website very much, so let's have a look. Let's go to watches and let's look at men's watches. Obviously, you said it's in the LUC category.
That was my guess. So I'm checking all men's watches while you're checking LUC.
Yeah, I don't see a world timer yet.
Oh,
I do
there's
like the
not.
Grand Cru though. This is one of my favorite LECs.
So it's LUC Time Traveler 1. That is how it's called.
There's a GMT1, GMT1 black. Oh yeah, here we go. Time travel one. Which one do you want to look at? We've got this one here in black. We've got a platinum one. We've got a stainless steel one. And then we've
I
got
think there is one with the gray dial that I like. Yeah, grayish blue.
Grayish blue. I think it's this one.
Well, that's in platinum, but just for the argument's sake.
Yeah, let's have a look here. Automatic.
Yep.
Very cool.
It's not the LUC movement with the micro rotor.
Yeah, is this not? This isn't a Geneva seal piece. I don't see the Poisson de Genève on the case.
Yeah, you're right. Not Geneva seal. Okay, let's drop that idea then.
Let's drop the idea because it's not Geneva seal. I mean, let me look at the cities at least of what they have here. So they got Sydney, they got Auckland, whereas the Ming had Melbourne, Sydney. They couldn't make a decision. Instead of Auckland, they just picked the whole country of New Zealand. Rio de J is how they spelt it.
Yeah. I was looking how Ming solved that problem, and I didn't like how they did it. Also with San Francisco, I think Ming made Frisco out of it.
Did they really? Frisco?
Yeah.
Oh, I think they did San Fran. I think Toyota Mo like that because it's San Fran.
Was it San Fran? I thought it was Frisco, but it was a little bit dodgy. That is how I remember it.
Let's have a look here. New York, Alaska, Buenos Aires. Where am I going here? Denver. I guess it's not showing. I'll just pull it up here. Chicago, San Fran, right here.
San Fran, okay.
Yeah, San Fran.
It's better than Frisco, but still San Fran is a little bit dodgy, isn't it?
I don't mind it, but again, right? It's everyone's different. I just couldn't understand the fact that they couldn't pick between Melbourne and Sydney. They just put Mel/Sid.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like they couldn't pick one of the cities, and in New Zealand they were just like, screw it, we're just gonna pick like the entire country.
Yeah, but I think you start to understand the struggle that we went through when we decided which city should be on the city ring of my watch. There's so much to consider, and then you better check back: is it the correct time zone that we're looking after? Is that zone at the moment in daylight saving times? So you're getting that incorrect. So it's a lot of work to pick and choose the correct cities. And I'm not convinced that Ming really did a good job on that. They did a different job, but not really a good one.
Neo says the JLC Sector World Timer is like $8,000. I have a geographic here. Let me see if this is what he's talking about. Oh yeah, here we go. Master Geographic with Sector.
Yeah, but that is more a dual time watch, because you have to actively choose the city that you're looking into. I wouldn't, in my opinion, that doesn't classify to be a world timer, because a world timer, you look at a glance and can check several cities without engaging with your watch.
Yeah, this one's all right. I don't mind it. It's a bit plain.
Well, that is the purpose of it. JLC solved that problem because many world timers are super crowded. By the way, I think that watch case is also very big because of that additional ring that goes around. So they tried to make it more pure. I understand that approach, but in my opinion, it's not a true world timer.
We got the Whiskey Reaper in the chat. We see you, Whiskey Reaper. Cheers to the boys. And Neo says he calls it San Fran. So, yeah, I don't know. This whole Ming thing was, I don't get it. I really don't.
Ming started that internet craze, and it cooled down a little bit what they did on that, it's a limited edition of 100 pieces, and it was sold out. But I think the Ming craze is cooling down, and people are getting a little bit realistic. It's still a nice watch with great lume, with a beautiful base movement, with a solid gold micro rotor. Nothing wrong with it. I admit that the brand name Ming would not be enough to let me pay 20,000 for this particular watch.
Yeah, I just don't see anything that's, that would drive me to want this piece at $20,000, right? If it was an affordable, a more affordable world timer that they were coming out with, it would make sense because you're getting a lot of bang per buck in an independent brand.
Mm.
But when you're charging 20K, that like arguably you could probably get like a 5110, closer to that mark, right? Like, what would you not get a Patek Philippe?
Yeah.
Even though it may be the 37 mil version of it or what have you, right? You still got a brand that's known for making world timers versus one that, I mean, this is arguably, and not to say this isn't a cool watch. I do like definitely the lume shot of this piece, and certain aesthetics of this watch are actually really nice. I don't think that they're bad, but I just think at that price point, you're going to have buyers that are just going to look elsewhere. And it was the same argument you and I had this morning with, with the Principia when it came to the Grunefeld.
Yeah.
For me, it was just like, do I like the watch? Absolutely, right? But for the kind of gray market prices that we're seeing here, I'll pull up the watch box. I mean, this is they're asking 73,000 US dollars for a basic, small seconds, piece automatic versus like at this price point, you can buy a 5327 perpetual calendar or even a 5320 perpetual calendar, and or what's the Longa equivalent you'd pay with 70 grand? You could probably get a datograph or close to a datograph.
A used one with a little bit of stretch, but this is one of the rare cases where you and I totally agree. This is not a $75,000 watch.
But you'd go 20K all day on this euro.
Say it again.
You would go 20,000 euro on this all day, every day.
I have regrets, but now that the order lists are closed, I will not get the discount anymore. I think the offer was 21,000 euros when I inquired for it, so I got a decent discount on it even, and but I didn't want to do the prepayment for over half a year.
Let's look at our old trusty friend, the Lange 1. So, I mean, cheapest Lange 1 here on Watchbox is 30,000. This is a 2001 model, so it'll have the old movement in it. And I mean, when you're getting into something, desirable or something that, folks will be interested in buying potentially, you're hovering into pretty pricey ranges for what people would call their
and
entry
keep in
level,
mind
right?
the Principia is still a steel watch.
It is, right? And this one, I think maybe either white gold or platinum. This one's in platinum. This is probably similar to the one that our friend Bondage has. Because I
think he has the Grand Lange, doesn't he?
He does. He does. This one's a 41 millimeter platinum case. So is 41 not the Grand?
Oh, that is the Grand Lange.
Yeah.
I'm here on my phone, so I can't really see it.
Yeah, I went straight to the movement. It has the older movement, even though it's a 2014. But
I think Bondage's watch has also the older movement. I think the Grand Lange. Does the Grand Lange? No,
yeah, they haven't upgraded.
The Grand Lange didn't come with a new movement.
No, they haven't upgraded, so it still has the older island, a little egg island that Archie says he doesn't mind. It bothers the shit out of me to have this little egg island in the middle of the 3/4 plate.
Actually, I personally like it. What I don't like is I think the old Langes the date change is not instantaneous, so it takes a little bit of time. While on the new one, it just clicks. I think that is the main improvement on the new movement.
Yeah, I mean, even these pieces are not. I mean, these were hovering in the low 20s for a while, and they've gone up significantly. So, what used to be probably one of the best buys in the watch industry is now slightly, it's slowly going away. So, if you do want to get your Lange, you want to probably buy that now, as opposed to
it's only getting worse. Yeah, so it's very difficult. Mark Goldberg was on Archie last week, and he said everybody was laughing at me when I said get a Hulk for 13. They are going to be only going up, and he was right about that. What do you advise people at the moment at the current price level? Buy or wait? I think wait only means you're gonna pay more, even more than today.
Yeah, and it kind of goes into Kelsowis's question here. Would you buy retail? Yeah, absolutely. I'd buy Grunefeld at retail. I'd buy these watches at retail. Yeah, well,
In a
I do.
second.
I do have a potential retail purchase. I got a call or a message yesterday around my dealer potentially getting either Snoopy or a 321 Speedmeister, and so I had been on the list for the 321 for about 3 years now, and it's the only watch I talk about when I go in and I see them. And yeah, so he gave me a ping yesterday, and he's like, "Hey, I actually got word that I might be getting a 321, and we're gonna look into try to get it for you and whatnot," which is super exciting. Now, obviously, 3 years later, the 321 has lost a lot of its hype. It's not it's not a watch that is going to be selling for over retail. I think it sells for retail right now, actually, on the secondary market. I'll pull up the 321 for those that don't know the Ed White. This is the 321 Ed White. And yeah, like this is something that I may have access to. I'm crossing my fingers that I may have access to retail. And yeah, I'm actually pretty excited because I've been waiting for this for a long time. And most of the people I think at my AD have just been like, they just want the Snoopy. They don't really care for the 321. For me, it was, I mean, I didn't really care that it was selling that much over retail. I just wanted to actually get access to one. So hopefully I'll get access to one. Jonathan, are you a fan of the old Lamania movement, or would you say stick to the 3861, the new?
Well,
Speedmeister?
no. If you can get it for retail, get it. You have my blessings. I don't see this particular watch being a $20,000 watch, but if you can get it at retail, it's a special piece.
This is
And
a $20,000 watch, right?
say it again.
This watch is $20,000.
Is it now 20,000?
Yeah, Canadian dollars, 19,800 plus tax.
Okay, but I'm talking US.
US, it's actually hovering around 19, I think 18, 19. So
Secondary.
it's secondary. I mean, it's
No,
slightly.
I'm
It's
talking about
slightly.
retail.
Yeah. It's slightly over retail. It's not like.
Yeah.
It's not trading double retail, for example. There's not. I mean, you don't find a lot of folks that are actively seeking this watch out. There are more people are after the Snoopy, right?
Did Omega push that price? Because I remember that it was 11 or 12 US.
No, it was never that low. It was never that low.
Okay.
No,
Then
they did increase their prices, but it was never that low. It was always significantly more expensive than the 3861.
Okay, then I've been ill informed. I apologize.
Yeah, look, I don't know what it is, right? Like I really do enjoy this movement. I think it's really cool that they've brought it back, and it's always been something of interest to me. It's got a column wheel, horizontal clutch, chronograph movement. So will obviously actuate differently than the cam actuated 3861 movement, but to me, it's just a cool concept. The only kind of irks I have is that they didn't put the Hesselite glass on it. They used sapphire on this piece, but it's not the end of the world, right?
Yeah, but it's a bummer. Let's be honest.
Yeah, you would have expected if they're doing something more retro that it would be like that. But they actually, they went, for example, the bezel ceramic on this versus not being non-ceramic on the 3861, and it's got an applied Omega logo on it.
Yeah.
Whereas I believe only the sapphire sandwich version of the 3861 has an applied logo. But yeah, interestingly enough, just not as highly sought after in Omega dealers. And I talked to Bear about this actually because I know Bear has a really strong relationship with his AD, and I was like, "Hey, has your dealer seen one of these at all?" And he said no, he hadn't. And
I think they're putting them preferably to the boutique. I think, isn't it? So
yeah,
I
I think it is. But I do know some ADs that have had, like in the US, like this has been I wouldn't say very accessible, but it's they've come around, and I think that it's just yeah, where we're at, there's just not a lot. And I only ask about this watch whenever I go in there, and the guys who run the place are friends of mine, and they're honest with me about it, right? They'll be honest. Hey, you need this kind of a spend, or they're not going to play games. They understand I know the game, and I'm
Mm.
just like, hey man, like you guys know I'm a collector. This is the reason why I want this watch. I've owned many Speedmasters in my life. I do like collecting things, for a specific purpose, and these are the reasons why I like this watch. They know I'm not trying to just try to make a buck off of a flip here. Even if it was selling for double retail, it would
Mm.
still be a watch that I'd probably enjoy. It's just still it's still a hefty amount of money too, right? This is almost with
Oh yeah.
tax, it's almost like 23,000 Canadian dollars. So what's that in US? It's it's 17,000 US dollars. So it's slightly lower than retail, but still something I'd be super interested in going for, right?
Well, if you love it, and the Lemania is certainly an OG and a very very important movement. From what I've heard at the beginning, they're only able to produce like 2,000 per year. Is that still what they are saying, or did they significantly increase the numbers?
I don't know, man. It's been hard to get out of these guys like what's happening, because to them it's just they kind of said the same thing, right? Most of these will go to like high volume locations and probably be boutiques.
Mm.
And I don't like I know that this is not a high production model in the range,
Yeah.
and they claim there's only a few watchmakers working at Omega that actually assemble these,
Yeah.
and these are actually like assembled by watchmakers. They're not like on the standard line, I guess you'd think, with the 3861.
Yeah.
So it's been really tough, man, to really get out of them like what's going on. Like I'm actually talking to my essay right now, and he's just saying, hey, I might even ask him like, how many are you expecting? I can't assume that they would ever expect 3 Snoopies, right? But they should at least expect one of these, maybe
Are
2.
you also on the list for this Snoopy?
So he reached out to me and he says, "Look, I'm probably going to get both."
Hmm.
And he didn't give me an option, right? He didn't give me an option. I know that when it comes to the Snoopy, he has customers that are like, "Hey, if I buy this, can I get a Snoopy?" Right?
Mm.
And yeah, look, like I mean, it's not that I haven't bought watches from this guy. I have, but if he's got a client that's going and dropping heavy money who specifically wants a Snoopy, then yeah, like I'm not gonna bitch about that unless I want to go put up the same kind of money, right?
Mm.
But when it comes to the 321, again, I think that there's just far fewer people seeking it out, that are actually looking for this specific watch, and that's why you're not seeing this huge demand for it selling over retail. And the interesting thing is that you can even get the vintage ones for even cheaper than this.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah.
and it's like, to me,
That's a
vintage
fair
is
point. But Tanzil, if you and I would be running Omega, you and I would also funnel them to our own boutiques, because the clients who want to buy, who are willing to pay that money for, and want to have this watch with a 321 caliber. Those are the clients that you want to commit to your boutique, to give them the experience, and to get them to buy more watches from your own
that's
boutique.
exactly it. Yeah, like I don't have any issues with small businesses, going about practices like that. Like they're well within their rights to do that, right? Like I know that a lot of people don't like the games,
Yeah, but
and the answer is you don't have to play them, right? You really
yeah.
don't. If you don't want to spend, some people can't get over spending over retail, and they will spend way more over retail to get a watch at retail than
Mm.
actually just going to the secondary and buying whatever they wanted to buy, right? And that's fine, right? Like I don't really judge people if they go to the AD, or I don't judge people if they go to the secondary. I'm an impatient guy. I don't like to wait around. I waited for this one because I was like, hey, it's already selling crazy money over retail, and these guys are my friends. They'll at least tell me whether it's reasonable or not for me to ask. And they said it was totally reasonable. They just didn't know where they were going to get one, and then they randomly ping me saying, hey, we've got word we're probably getting one. So we're going to talk to Omega on your behalf and everything else, and see if we can allocate it for you.
Yeah.
Which is really
So
nice. Which is really nice of them, because honestly, Jonathan, like I mean, what have I bought from them? I've obviously bought Speedies from them. I bought some. I don't think I bought a strap. I did buy a strap from them. I bought a rubber strap for my Seamaster. I bought a few other pieces of jewelry. but nothing crazy. But that's more for the wife and stuff from that AD. So nowhere near like they have people that go in there and will buy a lot of Omegas just to get the Snoopy. And I like the Snoopy. I don't like it. Like it's Snoopy. I think I think David SW had one. I don't know if he still has one. Let us check our sponsor's website. Let's check out the Omega section, and let's have a look. He has an actual authentic Mitsukoshi Speedmaster, $30,000 US. This is one of the 300 originals from the Japanese department store.
Oh, that is the famous Mitsukoshi edition, yeah.
Yeah, they don't there's only 300 in the world, right? So they don't come up for sale very often. The only place I've seen it for sale outside of Omega Forums is on David SW. So he somehow gets them from collectors. Does he have a Snoopy? I know he did. He might have sold it. Let's go to the second page. Okay, I mean it's 23,000. So it's getting there, right? It's getting to the. I could have sworn I saw one for cheaper than this even from him, but I mean $23,000 for a Snoopy. It's still trading very high. And I don't think he has a 321 on his website. While Jonathan is doing whatever Jonathan is doing, I will say good evening to Adil. Adil, nice to have you here. And
No, I'm still here with you.
You're just you were just falling asleep from all the Omega talk.
No, but I was just waiting until you're finished with your search for Omega. You know that I don't have much to.
You know I can chew gum and walk at the same time, right? To anybody listening, this just goes to prove that Jonathan only wants to talk about high-end watches.
No, that's not true. But when I'm perfectly honest, I received a message here from another person who is very close to my heart, and I just had to reply.
Just tell GMT to fight off, man.
No, it was not GMT actually.
We got Neo who says, "I love the Snoopy Speedy, but I don't want to look at Snoopy on my watch. I would get the Alaska Project if I wanted an exotic Speedy." Yeah, look, this is a fair point. I actually feel the same way about the Snoopy. I don't really care for the Snoopy, design, like the Snoopy graphic on the subdial, but I do think it's a nice looking piece. I don't. Would that be a deal breaker? Like, I wouldn't personally go and buy this on the secondary because I don't like it that much. I do know people who do. I know people that are absolutely enamored by this watch. I think Bear is one of them. Because when I kind of told him about my opportunity to potentially get one, he was like, "Yeah, hop on that." And I brought up the 321 as well, and he just clearly didn't even give a shit about the 321, which just kind of goes to show you, Jonathan. Like, there's not a lot of people seeking them out, so that's why I kind of figured I'm like, it's something that I like, that I can appreciate. It's got a historic movement in it. It's modernized by the brand. It's going to be serviceable by the brand. And everything else. Not to say that you can't service a 321 from Independence, which you absolutely can. But hey, it was a cool concept. I liked it. I don't usually buy reissues, but this one was one that I thought was a home run for me. So cross my fingers.
Look, I understand your motivation, and I understand Bear's motivation, and it pains me to confess, if you put a gun on my head and have me choose between the Snoopy and the 321, I would choose the Snoopy. Does that shock you?
I mean, I think it does. It's look, the Snoopy's got some pretty unique design cues, right? Obviously, with the moving case back and everything else. Like, it's cool, but underneath it's just a 3861.
I know, and this is totally against what I'm usually preaching: high end and love for horology. But I just like playing with things sometimes, and that is totally in my ballpark, and it's kind of fascinating to me that Omega does this. And so if you have me choose, I would choose the Snoopy. However, I understand the importance of the 321.
Got Neo here, $5. Hello, humanity. Jonathan, how many 321 Seamasters are floating around nobody wants? good question.
321 Seamaster?
They do have 321 Seamasters. Our good friend Clive the Wrangler has one of them actually.
A 321 Seamaster?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
321 Seamaster. Yeah.
Neo, I would love to give you a reply to that question. I can't because to be honest, I don't know how a 321 Seamaster looks like. I know that Seamaster 57, and I know the 321 Speedmaster, but I'm a little bit clueless of what you're asking.
So here's a
Do you have-
Seamaster. Here's a Seamaster with a
Oh, okay.
with a 321. So yeah, I actually I talked to Clive about this because he's obviously one who's owned a 321 Speedmaster, and he's like, I still have a 321, not a Speedmaster. He's like, I have a Seamaster 321. So that's how I knew that they had them. And I think I sent him the link too. So if he's
Is that a sleeper watch?
uh,
How
I
are
mean,
they selling?
this is a vintage watch. It's
Yeah,
not
I know.
I don't
So-
know. I don't know that much about the vintage Omegas.
Because I would guess that you could get them below 10,000. So it's probably a sleeper watch.
I just sent Clive the link. I guess I didn't send him the link. So hopefully, if he's around, he'll.
Yeah, apologies again, Neo. Omega has that habit of calling everything a Seamaster, and I'm a little bit lost there. My main field is not vintage Omega, so I apologize that I didn't know about this particular watch. I think it looks quite nice. Do you know the diameter in millimeters? Probably 38 or something.
Oh, it's probably small. Here, let me pull up the article. Analog shift, 35 millimeters.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
small.
Yeah, it's a circa 1950s. Interestingly enough, 35 millimeters. But yeah.
Yeah, but we I had this morning I had a discussion with Archie about now I'm bad with Patek references. You know the 33 millimeter hand wound.
The 3919, yeah. Oh yeah, I knew exactly what you're talking.
So
Yeah.
so that was 33 millimeters, and back then there was no question that this was a man's watch, an elegant man's watch, and nobody was talking about millimeters diameter in watches. There were men's watches and ladies' watches, and that's it. And the discussion that we have about a certain amount of millimeters is a little bit crazy when you compare it with the old times.
Yeah, look, I think it's people get a little wrapped up around case sizes, diameters, and stuff like that because they're not even necessarily reflective of how the watch will wear. Like the 5196 is a classic example. It's got a pretty long lug-to-lug span, and
Yeah.
so it wears probably like a 38, less like and people think 37. They're feeling like it's going to wear like a 36. A 37 5196 wears a lot bigger than it is. Whereas a 44 millimeter PAM doesn't necessarily fit like a massive watch. Is it small? No, but it definitely can be worn by a lot of folks. It's not something you should be scared of if you're looking to get into Panerai, for example.
Yeah.
And so,
But-
it's just stats and figures don't mean anything. You have to really try them on the wrist.
But I remember those were really flying off the shelves. Those were cheaper Calatravas. I remember the normal Calatrava was over 10,000 Deutschmarks. That started at 7,500. For comparison, Submariner was 2,500 Deutschmarks back then, and they were considered being a deal. And at the beginning, we had an incredible demand for those watches.
Neo, $5. In the old days, men had a larger penis and they didn't need to worry about size shaming. Look, I think I think there's some truth to that statement. I think that right now people are so enamored by size, and funny enough, everyone was complaining about the Daytona size. Oh, it's small, it fits small, blah 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 blah. You get a diameter that's now slightly bigger, and folks are saying, well, like maybe the old size was good, right? Like it's just like
The
you can
old
never
size was spectacular. It looks fantastic.
you just can never win, right? So it's just interesting that that's the case, that people are just so I mean, look, is a 33 millimeter watch going to fit big? No, probably not. But it's just the time, right? It's also the buyers at the time were also a little bit more traditional. when it comes to Patek buyers. I think the buyers these days, as you're seeing from the brand creating, and I'll pull up
I disagree with you. I remember that we had significantly younger people who were asking for that watch because it was more accessible and it was different to the traditional Calatrava design language. I think that was part of its success.
when you're thinking about a watch today, right? Like Patek is trying to use a little bit more contemporary design
Mhm.
than what you would expect. The 3919 that you're describing is what a lot of people expect the brand to create, is something a bit more traditional. This is an example of one which our friend CB is applying for. It's a 5178G, which is a minute repeater with guilloche and then enamel dial,
Yeah.
and absolutely beautiful piece. But you can see the use of strap, like an orange strap, and just a blue color, an aqua color, even you could say, for this watch is a lot more contemporary than what you would expect a minute repeater to look like. And I'll pull up I'll pull up a minute repeater Grand Sonnerie that I showed
You know,
Archie.
anyone who puts that greenish leather straps on this particular watch deserves of being disowned because that watch just looks spectacular with that orange strap.
Yeah, so something like this is a bit more traditional, right? Would you expect from a Patek in the high end,
Yeah,
black dial, you got brigade numerals, and a very highly finished movement. I think like this is where you could probably look and find internal angles from Patek
yeah,
Philippe, and this is a minute repeater, a Grand and Petite Sonnerie,
and
but
finishing. Yeah,
yeah, it's just this is what most people would expect. So when you see that new release come out with an enamel dial and an orange strap, it's just very un-Patek that people would be looking at the brand and saying, "Well, whoa, this is not what the brand usually creates. They usually create something a bit more traditional like this."
just
And
just have a look at those lugs, that side profile. I'm on the record of saying in the very high end, Patek has the more elegant, the more beautiful cases compared to Lange. In my opinion, there is no doubt about that, and that is the perfect example for it. I love those lines, and I'm not saying I hate what Lange are doing. It's just different, and I love that elegance on those high end watches.
yeah, but I don't think a lot of these brands are trying to deceive anybody, right? Like most of these brands adhered to, not counting Lange, but like we're talking about VC, Patek, for example, adhered to the Geneva Seal for a period of time, which allowed for machine finishing, but to attain the Geneva Seal, it had to be hand finished to the point where you couldn't see any machining marks,
Yep.
on the movement and stuff like that. So, you know, f- that's what people will talk about. Well, Patek uses machines. Well, they do, but they also hand finish, the anglage on the movements and everything else. Where people have seen the and I don't know anybody who's actually speaking on YouTube that actually has owned pieces where this has happened, because I've been trying to do some investigation on it as well, in terms of like, well, how much has this ever been a problem? Where the problem was that people were saying they could see machining marks through the anglage on the bridges, on their whatever it was, maybe it was a
Mm.
world time or an annual calendar or a Caltra, whatever it might be. It wasn't this astronomically expensive minute repeater, for example, and so they were obviously upset about that. And that could be a lot of things, right? Like, that could just be poor quality control, and that's a one off. Um, like, I've had multiple Patek Philippe's. I've looped all of them, and
Yeah,
I
but
haven't seen like that kind of
but Tanzil,
it's very apparent to see when you do take it to a loop.
yeah, but I think that is not the issue. Let's go one step lower.
Hmm.
With Rolex, you can't see the machine finishing marks as well because they make that machine polishing to perfection. So that doesn't say much. What I really want to see is hand finishing, anglage made by hand and not by a machine.
Yeah, it's just I don't think that that's the purpose of these, though, right? And I don't think it's ever really been, right? Like,
It
it's not
used
like,
to be. It
no,
used to be.
I mean, if we're talking about what, 50 years ago, 60 years ago, maybe. Like, we're not talking about in recent times,
Well, when
on most
yeah,
of their pieces, right? Like that. But that's the thing. The Geneva, it's like, people don't ever rag on Vacheron, but Vacheron's the exact same, right? They do
yeah,
machine finish with hand finishing.
yeah,
They do the exact same thing. AP does it to a lesser degree, right? An AP finish movement is going to be finished to a lesser degree than a Patek or a Vacheron will.
Mm.
But I mean, are you expecting it to be a Philippe Dufour? Well, that's not what
Yeah,
you're
but
paying
as far as I know, the Lange movements are hand finished.
Sure, they're hand finished, but it doesn't mean that like, what Paddock is trying to describe is any different than what it has been describing
Yeah, no,
itself
no,
to
no,
be,
no.
right?
I'm not
Like,
talking about deceiving. I'm just talking about the effort and the art of hand finishing a movement. And you ask a very good question. The fact that an AP has a hand finishing, does it make it more reliable or easier to repair? Certainly not. That is just
no,
extra.
that was more in your argument earlier around like, well, the watchmaker hours associated is higher, right? I'm like, well, yeah, but look at APs, right? Like
Mm,
APs watchmaker hours are higher than Patek's, but they're arguably known to be way less reliable pieces. So I
mm.
don't think that necessarily translates into quality,
No, not at all.
necessarily. It's
Not.
just a stat that shows, okay, we produce this many watches and we have this many watchmakers, and therefore we're going to attribute the time to it. And that doesn't mean that the time is even evenly distributed as well, right? Lange could be spending inordinate amount of time on very, very high end pieces that they don't necessarily spend on a low end piece. Nobody can say otherwise that that's the
Oh,
case, right?
of course, a triple split takes far more time to build and finish than a Saxonia extra thin. There is no doubt about that.
But when you're making a decision, right, between like if you're talking about a Lange now, that's like a Lange one's at 40 grand,
Mm.
right? And then you're comparing it to, 40 grand, you're close to 5170J chronograph. You're into almost chronograph territory with Patek Philippe. Where at
Yeah,
the
but now you're talking secondary market. So
Yeah, we're just talking like secondary market to secondary market. People buying
okay,
them on the
okay.
secondary market
Hmm.
because that's what I consider is the true price, right? Like you're not going to be able to go in and buy a lot of these watches right out of the gate. It's just
Mm.
not. I just don't see it even with Lange right now, where you're able to necessarily go in and buy these pieces. So I'm just going to use secondary. So secondary to secondary, you've got a piece like this where you can purchase this arguably in the 40s as well. And then you kind of look at like, well, do I want a Lange one or do I want a Patek complication?
With the
And
Lemania based movement.
well, it's not necessarily Lemania based. It's maybe a Lemania copied movement, but not Lemania. It's not
No, no,
Lemania
no,
in
no,
and of
no. The
itself.
the Patek is with a Lemania based movement when you're paying 40,
No, this isn't a Lemania movement. This is their in-house movement.
which is based on Lemania architecture.
I mean, sure, we could go and say that every perpetual calendar is a Thomas Mudge based perpetual calendar. Sure,
Yeah.
like we can go all day long on whatever way you want to go about it. But that's the question then, right? Is why are people buying certain pieces? Because there's
Mm.
certain pieces that are great bang per buck. Like this one, which is their lower end, their cheapest chronograph, the yellow gold with this style configuration, it's always hovered around like the high 40s, and I think it's even going lower now because I think they've
Mm.
now they've discontinued the 5170. But for me, I would be picking this over a Lange one. It just I get a complication,
Mm.
in a Patek dress watch, obviously precious
But
metal.
I'm just asking. I don't know this particular model is it so cheap relatively on the secondary market because it's so small, or
No, this
because
is no, these were I think 39, 5170J. So I'm pretty sure it's a 39, 39.4 millimeters. Yeah.
Mm. I tend to agree with you that this apparently is the better buy. Uh, how I would compare it is retail price of a Lange one compared to retail price of a Patek Philippe gold chronograph, and Patek Philippe gold chronograph is more than double. So
L29 says in the 70s they said Rolls Royces were handmade while falling apart. You need high-end art. It's actually not a bad point.
it's
I
it's a
wouldn't say
very
that.
good one.
Yeah, it's what manufacturer does that today is McLaren.
Mm,
McLaren will claim that if you've never seen, I don't know if you like car. I'm not gonna derail too much in car YouTube, um, but there is a car YouTuber from the UK. I'm forgetting his name. He did an entire McLaren a McLaren video where he had this whole ordeal with McLaren Manchester, and I'll try to find you. I'll try to find you his videos. But it's funny because in the statement from McLaren Manchester, they say that the car will have imperfections because it is handmade,
Mm.
and all this stuff. And it was just
Yeah,
it's a wild video.
but Tanzil, the more I think of this comparison, the more it doesn't really apply to high-end watches, I would say, because the amount of hand finishing doesn't necessarily mean that the long-term quality is worse. We're talking about Lange. We are not talking about exotics. We're not talking about probably. What is the name with? We're not talking about Frank Müller, or we are not talking about Richard Mille probably, or Jacob and Co. We're talking about Lange, so I wouldn't worry about the long-term quality. And we're not talking about Rolls-Royce workers in the UK. We're talking about solid German watchmaking. So I think that I understand the point with Rolls-Royce being hand-built and falling apart, and with all the difficulties of those exotic things. But I think Lange managed to reach a certain level of quality that you don't have to worry about the longevity of your watches. Would you agree on that?
I just dropped the link to the name of the video. The YouTuber's name is JM on Cars. He's in the UK. Really, really good video. If you guys are into want to hear a bit about a Lange customer service experience, not a Lange, a McLaren customer service
Yeah.
experience. Look, when it comes to Lange, you guys were talking about they're not upping production, they're lowering production because they were at like 3,500, and I think they're lowering it to like 2,000.
Yeah, but I recently heard Mr. Schmidt now talking about 5,000, and I reached out to Lange,
Mm.
and I wanted to have a number, and I told them, 1 year ago, Mr. Schmidt was talking about 3,500. Now he's talking about 5,000. So what is true? And the reply was, please understand that we're not commenting production numbers, regardless of Mr. Schmidt may have said. So,
Well, it's because I know a lot of folks that are trying to get them at retail and are being told by the ADs that long as actually decreasing production to
yeah,
focus more on the higher end
high
pieces. They're going to
complication.
produce,
Yeah,
yeah, they're going to produce less entry level. They're going to produce more higher end complication,
yeah.
which in and of itself is the brand attempting to position itself, away from, wanting to compete at the entry level and more wanting to compete with,
Yeah,
probably like a Patek that's going to be doing
but Tanzil,
complication.
I think that will be an interesting discussion, maybe with the professor. We recently were discussing Thierry Stern,
Hmm.
who tries to get younger blood to the brand.
Hmm.
Let's put it that simply. And Lange is going the total opposite way in making their watches inaccessible and basically not caring about the folks that want a cheaper watch with less complications or something like that. So two very different approaches, admittedly two very different brands in terms of philosophy and also in terms of production numbers.
Well, I would say it's the buyer, right? Like, I think it's the buyer for Patek Philippe is also it's not just a watch collector, right? It is a brand name that has some presence. It's not the presence of Rolex, for example, but you will be attracting buyers that are not just watch collectors necessarily. And this watch is a good example of this, of them modernizing or bringing a contemporary design to their chronograph, which I showed you here in the previous model, the 5170. This look of the piece is very traditional. Whereas when I kind of pivot to the newest version, the 5172, you've got Arabic numerals, syringe hands, blue dial, on a calfskin strap, completely different, which they're trying to have appeal to a contemporary buyer, likely a younger buyer, because they're seeing that their demographic of buyers is shifting away from 65 plus or 55 plus to being a lot more in that 25 to 55-year-old range. And so they can't just make traditional pieces that aren't going to appeal, or they feel don't appeal or speak to their customer base. And so yeah, and maybe Long is seeing a different customer base. Maybe they're
Yeah.
seeing a collector customer base is coming in saying, hey, we already own a Lange 1, or we own a Saxonia, or we own an 1815 up down. We want more of the 1815 chronograph, the double split, the data graph, perpetual calendars, etc. We want more of that. And so that's where the brand may be taking itself, right? I think Patek is like, well, they have a whole lot of watches, and they're trying to avoid just becoming a sport watch company, and they're positioning themselves away from it. So
Tanzil, you're significantly younger than me, so I see you as a younger Patek aficionado. If you have the choice of getting only one chronograph by Patek Philippe, and you have the choice of that versus a more traditionally designed chronograph, which one would you pick?
yeah, it's a good question. So we'll use the two examples here. So this is a 5172. This is the most modern chronograph that Patek Philippe makes. And I'm going to pull up the one that I would buy. Just give me a second. This is the one I would buy. So this is the previous generation 5170 black dial with brigade numerals. More of a classic layout, which I think is just, for me, it's a cleaner dial, and I prefer this over the more contemporary version. And again, this is a slight preference, where I do like the 5172 a lot. But if you were to give me the choice of, hey, would you take a 5170 in this configuration or 5172 in the other configuration, I would go for this, which is a bit more traditional. Hey, Geezer, how's it going?
I knew that you would reply in that way, and it's no surprise to me. However, I love the platinum with the blue dial and the baguette diamonds even more.
Yeah, I'm not a gemstone guy, so for me, yeah.
Me too. But I totally love those baguette dials on that blue dial.
But I'm also different, right? Like like JJ, for example, would probably take the complete opposite. He had a 5172, and he would take the complete opposite, and a lot of people do, right? I think the only
But he
watch
sold it, hasn't he?
he did. But for me, it's like, I think the only watch that I'm more jiving with more contemporary collectors is the weekly calendar. It's probably one of the only ones. Whereas,
Yep.
Other folks like more of the contemporary, like even CB, who put his name on for that enamel dial minute repeater, which is a great choice. And I would probably have taken that one. And I know this is going to sound a little controversial, Jonathan. I would have preferred the one CB is applying for, which is, I'll just put it up on the screen again for those that have just joined us. This is the one CB is applying for, the 5178 in white gold. It has an enamel guilloche dial and is a
What
minute
was the
repeater.
alternative to that?
He didn't have an alternative, but I would say that this was the alternative in the current releases, which is the 5531 in white gold minute repeater with a world time. I know you like this one a lot, but I still would have gone, for the just standard minute repeater over this one.
Okay.
Oh shit! I'm not even showing my screen. I'm like, I was expecting more of a response from Jonathan, but this was the alternative, which I know you're well aware of.
Come on, Tanzil.
I still would have taken. I just, you know what? I like the steamboat and everything, but it doesn't really mean too much to me, and it takes up a lot of that dial that I don't really care for.
Let's talk about this particular watch in 6 weeks, and I promise to try to convince you that you're totally wrong on that, but I can't do it right now.
Yeah, but if I don't like if I don't care for the steamboat on Lake Geneva, right? Like, it doesn't matter how much you tell me about cloisonné finishing, or the hobnail on the side of the case. Like, it's not gonna make a difference. It really won't. I just don't like the design. I don't particularly like. It doesn't mean anything to me, and when it doesn't, and you're spending, $250,000.
$250,000? That's $500,000.
Is it $500,000? $500,000 even, right? $250,000,
It's more than
$500,000, right?
$500,000 in
Yeah,
dollars. I think it's
$500,000.
more than $600,000.
Let's have a look. I don't think they have it listed. It's not a listed.
I know it in British pounds is 600 It's 560.
Al29 says, I'm worried that iron meteorite dials might rust. Politically incorrect thing to say, I'm sure.
Yeah, that is a worry that you have to have, because meteorite contain a high level of iron, and iron oxidates and rusts. I think Rolex is treating them with a rhodium plating, or a kind of. So I'm pretty sure Rolex are doing their best to prevent this. Not sure how the long-term experiences will be on those meteorite dials.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. Whole Milk says you can buy your own steamboat for that kind of money. Yeah, you absolutely can. And
Yeah,
for me,
but
it's like,
I'm,
yeah, but
I'm
$500,000. Are you buying this watch for $500,000? Or are you
let
buying
me
something
defend
else,
the
right?
steamboat for a second. If you've ever been to Geneva and have been walking over the bridge and have the beautiful view on that fountain, you see those old style boats crossing Lac Le Mans, which is called, and that just brings back old memories. We have the renter here in the house.
Livers, we needed your expertise.
Yes, what's on what?
Neo was asking about 321 Seameisters.
Okay.
And so I said, you know what? I was just talking to Clyde the other day, and he mentioned he had a 321 Seamaster. And
Yes.
Neil was just asking, like, how many of these were actually produced and, like, how rare they are, I guess.
Well, it's tough, and like I said, the one I have is one of the original ones, or actually the original one from 1957. But it's 34 millimeters, so that I think that holds it back somewhat.
Yeah, that's what Jonathan was asking. He wasn't sure on the size. One of the ones I looked up was like 35, so maybe it's 34 points.
Tanzil, you may have heard that the cat came, so I have to feed him, and also my dinner is ready. I'll be back in probably 30 minutes, if that's okay for you guys.
Yeah, that's fine. Me and Clyde can talk about 321s. Clyde, I may have access to a 321.
Talk to you later, guys. Yeah.
See you, Jonathan. So Clivers, I may have access to a 321 Speedmaster as someone who's owned a 321 Speedmaster.
Yes.
Well, I mean, obviously, you could probably still get the older ones for a heck of a lot cheaper than you get the new one. You know?
Well, yeah, but on the other, because they also made them for an extended amount of time, but they're not making any more of the old ones.
No, but I've seen like prices like 10 grand and 11 grand for the originals, and these ones are like 17, 18 grand for the new model of the 321. So my AD was basically like, hey, we're getting a Snoopy, we're getting a 321. And I know the Snoopy is going to be tough because there are some buyers that are clients of that AD that I know have been really looking forward to it. So I'm not super like, I'm not going after the Snoopy very hard, but they know that I've been asking about this piece for about 3 years. So they're seemingly willing to give me, one of these. And so you're the only one I know who's owned a 321 Speedmeister. So just want to get your take on them.
And Seamaster.
And a Seamaster.
Now, on the other hand, also Patek Philippe also had a 321 Speedmaster. He had a later one, a 60s one. It was more modern size. I think 36 or 37.
Yeah, I never knew that about him. I always thought he was I know he was a Rolex guy. He said he owned a bluesy for like 20 years. He wore on the wrist as his daily.
Well, you had it. He was in love with it. And literally, I think it would have been easier for him to give herpes away than that watch. It just, at the time, everyone's talking about Speedmaster, but there's absolutely no love for the Seamaster. But, kind of the rising tide lifts all boats.
Well, that's the thing, right? And this watch has gone significantly down in value on the secondary. It's trading literally at retail. So there's not even any like financial incentive. Not that there was when I was originally inquiring for it, but it's just, for me, I don't really care. I more or less wanted the 321 movement in the modern watch, right?
But okay, you've got two types of people. You have the people that have want quote unquote a moon watch, and then you have the ultra, Speedmaster purists. And frankly, you're not a purist, you're more of a tourist.
Yeah, but I do know this movement very well, right? And for me, this is probably your most affordable one.
Of the movement.
Yeah, I know of the movement very well.
Yes.
It's a very famous movement, and for me, that's what I'm paying for. Is the fact that it's a remade version made by the manufacturer that's serviceable by the manufacturer. Not to say the other ones aren't serviceable.
Well, you're paying for you're paying as
But you're
much
also
for the
paying
hype.
for a modernized watch too, right?
Well, you're paying for the hype and you're paying for the labor that goes along with it.
Well, there's no hype, right? There's not really any hype on this piece anymore.
For an Omega, I think there still is hype for Omega 321. I think it's still, I think it's still a Halo watch, a Halo piece.
They're trading like very much at retail right now. They used to be trading a lot more, but they've gone down because again, I don't think that there's a ton of people seeking this watch out necessarily. I think more people are seeking out the Snoopy, which is still hovering at probably low 20s right now on the secondary market, whereas this one is hovering pretty much at retail because there's not a lot of supply and I don't think there's a lot of demand either for it.
Well, but sometimes I think too little supply can also choke some. There's a fine line because if there's just enough of a chance, just enough of a inkling that you might just have a shot, maybe, then people line up. But if it's a foregone conclusion, nah, it doesn't really matter what, you're not going to get this thing.
Well, the reality is there's not a ton of them that come to ADs anyways. Like I said,
Right.
I mentioned earlier.
They are incredibly complex to make.
I asked Bear. Yeah, I asked Bear. I'm like, "Have you seen any at your AD?" And he's like, "No, not a single one's come to my AD." And this was in the last 3 years. And so I just got word that my AD's getting one. And because I've been, it's the only watch I ask about there is this one. So they know me as the guy, one guy who really wants this watch, that they're willing to give it to me as opposed to potentially a flipper, even though there's no flippability right now, anyways, on this piece. And even then, it may not even be one that's easy to sell, right? Like it's
Right.
Speedmaster buyers are probably buying in the sub $10,000 range.
Well, yeah, the ones that want quote unquote a Speedmaster. So
the one interesting thing about this watch that I found, when you compare it to, for example, this is a reissue. So, when we think of like the 62 Moss, the Seiko 62 Moss, when they did the reissue, the original 62 Mosses were like, maybe a good piece I got for like $1,000 or 1,500, something like that. It wasn't anything crazy. They like doubled in price when the reissues came out that were selling for $3,000.
Can you hold on? I need to send a quick text. Sorry, it's got work. Actually, and there's a disc. It's like, well, it's still not quite Good Friday yet. So, and I don't even know if we're on Good Friday.
Yeah, no worries.
One second. Let me
take your time. I can ramble on. We got the chat here, and I can address some of the questions for the chat. Whole Milk says a rusted meteorite probably looks cool, and he would embrace it. We got a super chat from our good friend Trading Profits at £2. 10 is the 5212 technically flippable? So I don't think it's very difficult to flip. I've been monitoring some of the sales on the forums, and I believe one sold after maybe about a week on the market, and so I don't think it's very difficult to sell. The issue with this is that it's trading very close to retail. So most people, if they're going to spend retail, are going to probably want their name on the papers, and so they may be willing to wait. And I think that it's kind of depends where you are. In certain locations, they may see a lot more of these. In Canada, for example, our ADs may see one or two per year. And if there's only 5 ADs, for example, that's 10 that come to the country every year. And not that easy for anybody to just walk off the street without a relationship with the AD, for example, to want to buy that. And so, that's where it's kind of sitting right now is I don't think it's going to be very hard to sell. I mean, I've sold Calatravas within 24 to 48 hours very easily. So I don't, you know, again, you're talking about an entry level complication or complication that's at 40K, for example, whereas a lot more of the other complications sell for a lot more money. So, and you got a steel piece and one that is arguably quite usable. So I don't think it's going to alienate a lot of buyers necessarily. I think the more the alienation comes from, does the buyer like the dial or not? Some people fanatically love the dial, some people don't, and so I think that's really where it comes down to. So yeah, like I said, I've never had an issue selling any Calatrava. I don't particularly think it's going to be very hard to sell. I think it's just the ones that can't sell are people still trying to sell them well above retail, and people aren't willing to pay that kind of money when they're more accessible, I'd say. But yeah. Like, I honestly, Trading Profits, I tried for like 5 months, I think it was, looking for one of these in Canada, and it was really, really hard, man. Like, I was able to find pretty much everything else but this for some reason. So there just haven't been a lot of them that have come out. And if we really think about the math, right? Like, Patek Philippe makes, say, 70,000 watches a year, of which 25% of them are in steel. So that means there's about 17,000 watches that they create in steel amongst their Aquanauts and their Nautilus and this watch and a few other pieces. So, let's assume that maybe there's 2,000 per year, for
Ooh.
example. So we're probably about 6,000 pieces out in the world right now, since its introduction. You back there, Clive?
I'm back.
All right.
Sorry, it's a prosecutor contacted me about a case.
No problem, man. No problem. So yeah, 3-2-1, man. I'm debating it. They're saying a couple of weeks, and yeah, I'm debating pulling the trigger. If it's a Snoopy, I'll probably.
I mean, okay, if this is the way I see it. If it was any other collector, I'd almost say, yeah. But you, considering you've already held some greats in your hand anyway, considering what you've already had, this is almost like a checkmark watch for you.
Well, for me, I'm not super inclined to go and buy a Daytona. I've never owned a Daytona. I've thought about buying it a couple of times. Never really pushed myself to buy one, just because.
No, I just mean the 321. Just having that movement of watch.
Well, exactly. This is more interesting to me than the Daytona, and it really speaks to me in terms of, I like history, I like heritage. I like the fact that it's a modern watch that has this movement. Whereas other people, I know JJ is not a big fan of this watch. He doesn't like that it's an older movement, and people feel that, hey, like, why would I want to buy old technology, et cetera, right? And I think that misses kind of the point of this model, which is more to be a heritage model and a model that is honoring the history of the.
That's idiotic. That's like Stradivarius. Why do I want to buy an old violin for?
Yeah, but that's the truth, right? A lot of collectors these days. Why do you think the 5-digit Rolexes aren't like skyrocketing in price? People don't want them. People don't want 5-digit Rolexes anymore. People want the new stuff, and for any 5-digit collector, that's great news, right? Like, it's great news that people aren't necessarily going after them, but a lot of new collectors want just the newest stuff.
Well, see, I don't know. All my Rolexes are 4 digits, so
Yeah, 4-digit, 5-digit. I mean, the 4 digits.
No. They're all 4 digit.
Did you pick up the 1603? Or were you thinking about a 1603?
I picked it back up. I'll put it that way.
You picked it back up, yeah. That's one of my favorite date justs. It's for those that don't know, I'll pull up a 1603 here on the screen for you guys. Not the one that we're talking about between Clyde and myself, but this date just is. Fuck, I keep like not sharing my screen. Engine turned bezel, Jubilee bracelet, and this one's steel with a silver dial. I've owned this watch specifically, this look of watch, and it's been one of my favorite date justs of all time. I do love the 1601 with the white gold fluted bezel, but yeah, there's a part of me that's just my first watch was a 16030 date just, so I do have a bit of an affinity for these engine turned bezels.
Yeah, I think so. And it's something you can't really just readily pick up anymore. So
no, and yeah, look, like I don't know. I think I asked you this question. I said, like, what's kind of a watch that you'd wear for the rest of your life if you were just trying to get out of the game, right? If you were somebody who just like, hey man, you're getting older, your eyesight's not there, you just want to wear something, but you want to wear something of quality, right? And to me, it was either one of two watches. It was either going to be the date just or it's going to be the day date, and that's really on your personal taste. I think I mentioned day date to you, and you were just I think you were more like, it's a little too flashy for me.
Exactly.
Big George, New York says, I have a 1601 with a gray lavender dial. Oh, interesting.
Ooh.
And I put an aftermarket sapphire crystal. I love it. Yeah, so the 1601 would have been a plastic crystal, and yeah, it's gray lavender dial. I wonder, Big George, is that an OEM dial or is that an aftermarket gray lavender? Let's see if I can find a gray lavender dial. 1601 lavender dial.
It could be equal opportunity. It's a gay market. It's a gay
Okay.
market dial.
Okay, I think.
Or a lot of times you can get authentic Rolex that put on a later variation. Like for instance, mine has a blue Roman style from 16030.
Yeah, I think this
And,
is. I think this may be what he's talking about. Because this has a gray lavender tinge to it. Very cool, actually. I've never seen this before. On the 1601, so you can see here on the 1601, and it has a fluted bezel instead of an engine
Yep.
turn bezel in white gold. So very very cool pieces. So yeah, Clive, for you, you would be going date just. You wouldn't be going day date for your kind of,
Yeah.
let's call it, retirement watch.
Or the end watch. Nursing home watch.
Nursing home watch. So you're saying that the date. So would you say a sub is not a nursing home watch? Would you be shying away from sport Rolex at that point?
Yeah, actually it might. Because you're, like I said, you're literally in a nursing home. So do you really need a Submariner? No.
No, you probably don't, right? But maybe the maxi dial is a bit easier to read than
Sure.
the.
But a lot of times, just even contrast dial can be easier to read. That's one of the reasons I do love the blue Romans with white gold hands and white gold indices. I mean, white gold Romans.
I don't. I don't disagree with you that the date just. It's one watch that really people just don't talk a lot about. It's just not something that's in vogue or in flavor. But I don't know, Clyde. I could see you rocking this in the old folks' home.
Well, it'd be a senior citizen of a watch anyway. So yeah,
This one's 37 millimeters, 6538. Dr. No, James Bond Submariner.
Yep.
Everybody's getting vintage vibes off of this Black Bay 54. And it's funny the amount of people that I'm talking to that are just like, oh, yeah, like I'll buy the 54. And it was like literally the same people who said they'd buy the 58 because it's a smaller size. And I'm like, how much smaller do we need to go for like people to be satisfied with a Black Bay, right? Like it's wild.
Well, and for me, a lot of it, I think, is just how much thinner. I mean, it might be 32. It might only be 32 millimeters wide, but it's probably also going to be 32 millimeters thick.
I think it's about it's less than a millimeter thickness difference between the 58 and the 54. I haven't really seen a problem. I have a 58. I haven't really had a problem with it being too thick.
No.
Pepperex says the 54 is just new hype, like the Pelagos 39. Yeah, I think I would tend to agree that it's like when the Pepsi first came out, the GMT Pepsi from Tudor. Pretty hyped. It was selling for over retail for a bit, and then obviously it took a nosedive. I believe that it's probably going to be the same for this one. I don't think that the Black Bay 54 is necessarily going to be this wildly pop. I think the 58 is still going to be the sweet spot. And you've owned a 58, Clyde. You've owned a blue 58, I remember.
Yeah. And that's a nice watch. Don't get me wrong. It's a great little watch. And that one could also be, I'll be honest, could also be a one and done.
The 6538 on the screen?
Or the 6538 or the Black Bay 58 blue.
Yeah, but I think for someone who's been a seasoned collector for a long time, I think you'd want something special if you're just kind of ending the collecting. You know what I mean? Kelsowitz says 38 millimeters is the smallest he believes a sport watch should be.
Yeah, but sometimes people wear sports watches almost as dress watches. For instance, again, my Aquanaut was mid-sized, but it was a sports watch I more or less wore as a dress watch, and I thought it was an excellent dress watch.
Yeah, and hey, look, Kelsowitz, I mean, most of these original models, whether it's the Submariner or the Daytona, were started in 37 millimeters. They weren't a 40, for example. They were 37, and these are the watches that everyone covets. Like this James Bond Submariner specifically. Big George.
When I look at that watch, the proportions, everything about that watch is just perfect proportions.
Big George says he believes that the Black Bay should have a date and move forward from a no date configuration.
Possibly, and that's probably what they'll do next, because that is the absolute laziest thing they can do to move the brand forward at all.
Which takes me to a new topic for us.
Oh dear God.
And then we're going to go into the evolution of the Rolex Submariner. So the Rolex I showed you on the screen previously was the 6538. That was the one worn by Sean Connery in Doctor No, and it was a no date configuration. And Rolex continued the no date into the 5512, which is a chronometer certified version, as well as the 5513, which was a no date, non chronometer certified version. They came out with the first date, the first date Submariner in the 1680, where they were taking the move to, at this point in time in the 60s, Rolex was identifying that the Submariner was moving from being a tool watch or tool only watch to a luxury watch, and then decided to put a date on the piece. So kind of talking about what Big George is speaking about of, hey, why don't we finally add a date? Well, this is when Rolex did it in the Submariner. This is the actual prototype of the 1680. If anyone hasn't seen the so it's got a bark finish on the center links. Obviously a lot different than you would expect to see from a 1680, but pretty cool to see what the original prototype looked like. And they said this. So the article says that Christie's auctioned this prototype for more than $632,000. And this was, in 2017. So obviously it would be worth a heck of a lot more in today's day and age. But yeah, pretty. It's a pretty interesting design that they have here. You can even see here on the bezel where you see these little cuts on the bezel as well, which is pretty interesting. I have never actually seen that before on a subby. But this is when they, when Rolex in the Submariner, in the 1680 range, you start seeing the gold Submariners. You start seeing, a lot more of the watch becoming a luxury item as opposed to a tool watch specifically. And that,
You know what the story is for the cuts, right?
Tell me the story.
One for each barmaid.
One for each barmaid, guys, ladies and germs. One for each barmaid. But yeah, 1680 is one of my favorite pieces. I've owned a 1680 Mark IV red dial. I'll pull that up for you guys. 1680 Mark IV red. And you can tell here that this is a Mark IV because usually in a Mark V, the A and the equal sign will be parallel. Whereas you can see the equal signs a little bit between the A and the R here. But this is a 1680 red sub Mark IV dial. The original dials, I think the Mark I and Mark II, I believe, and maybe even Mark IIIs were meters first, and the Mark IV was a feet first dial. But this is when Rolex decided to say the subby is now a luxury good, Clyde. It's where you need to know the date. You're not necessarily going underwater with it. Because why the hell would you need to know the date?
That'd be a big ass. That would be a big ass tank.
Yeah, it's like, why the hell do you need to know the date if you're going underwater? But this was when they did. So Big George, if Tudor ever does that, that'll spell the end of the idea of them trying to push it as a tool watch. But I don't know. I'm sure they will do one with the date at some point. I wouldn't put it past Tudor. They're not really super original, and
no.
And the question is Tudor a one-trick pony, right? A lot of these brands are getting called out for being one-trick ponies, right? Like I've been calling out Chopek for being a one-trick pony. Everyone calls out AP for being a one-trick pony. Panerai arguably has two lineups, realistically, between the Luminor and the Radiomir, but everyone loves the Luminor more than the Radiomir. Tudor, right? Like, is Tudor a one-trick pony, Clyde?
Well, essentially, they might have other, like the Ranger, but primarily it's the Black Bay Company.
Our good friend Road Mutations is laughing out loud at my call out of Tudor being a one-trick pony. So we've got the Black Bay 54, if you're not a one-trick pony, like, and you go straight to the website, it's like Black Bay 54,
blah, 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 blah.
Black Bay, Black Bay Bronze, Black Bay Pro, Black Bay Chrono, Black Bay P01. It's obviously, you look at the Black Bay watches. Now let's go to the sport watches. Obviously, you see other ones.
Ranger.
See the Ranger, the Pelagos. Classic watches, you got
And I have to admit, the Ranger, it's just a little chunky, but I think the Ranger appeals to me. If there's anything to it that appeals to me, it would be the Ranger or the Black Bay Pro.
Yeah, it's I mean, I'm not really minding this this Black Bay Burgundy on the Jubilee. I don't really have a problem with this one. I don't know why. It's getting a bit of flack, but I don't mind it. Archie thought about buying it, but then obviously backed out because it's expensive.
Yeah.
I think this is really nice.
No, he backed out of it because he didn't want me having something to do and occupy my time for the next 4 months.
Raymond Zhao, a good friend of the channel, asked, "Tant, would you welcome a performance-focused gondolo to rival the Richard Mille?" So,
if they have a gondolo, they should have a gondolo, and then they should have a Ricola from the gondolo.
I think from Richard Mille, I mean, the tonneau case it really identifies the brand. You'll identify Richard Mille pretty much a mile away from the shape of the case, and I think that because if you ever saw the Richard Milles, the circular case ones, those weren't super popular.
No.
I remember going to the dealership and looking them up, and all they had was circular watches. They only had a few tonneau-shaped watches from Richard Mille. So for me, that is Richard Mille. Is that case?
Oh, you don't know about the tonneau?
Yeah, and I don't think that if Patek makes a gondola shape that's like tonneau focused, and I'll show you one that I talked about earlier today, which isn't really a tonneau shape. It's more of a TV shape. I don't know if Jonathan ever sold any of these watches when he was selling some of the brands, but this is the TV case, Patek Philippe Perpetual Calendar, and I just don't see Patek Philippe doing that. I think that like anybody is trying to copy Richard Mille is going about it the wrong way. Richard Mille is known for that design, and so I don't think that I don't think that their buyers are going to necessarily want that.
Along with Daniel Roth, also tonneau shape cases.
I mean, there's lots of them, right?
And Frank Müller and
Frank Müller would be the other one in my mind
Daniel
to identify
Roth
as.
He was a big man. Sorry.
This one's for you, Jonathan. Grubel Forsey shits all over any Richard Mille. Balancier S is a masterpiece. Spell up the Balancier S.
I don't have to reply to that. He put it perfectly. Tanzil, can I have 2 words in a personal thing? I'm here being flooded with messages that Doc's Report is talking smack about me. Let me just say, I make my own decisions on which channel I appear and on which channels I don't. You can criticize me, but at the end of the day, it is my personal decision, and I have the ability to assess and reassess situations and modify my decisions, and nobody will take that away from me, particularly not you. Okay.
Nobody should. Yeah. Nobody should like.
He is an odd little duck, though. I think he believes in what he's doing. He's just an odd little duck. I'll just leave it at that.
Hey, man, if you're not making watch content, I don't watch your stuff. So, for me, I'm only here for the watches. I'm only here for all that stuff. So that's all I talk about. I don't really know the context of that, Jonathan, but definitely you can use the stage whenever you need to. Big George NY says he likes the ellipse, but doesn't think it counts. Yeah.
The older I get, the more I like the ellipse. I really hated it from the bottom of my heart. I start to like it, and I start checking those watches on Chrono 24.
Oh, no, 24.
Well, this must have been a hard watch to sell, though. Like,
Oh yeah. I remember being what's that? That's Patek Philippe. What? The Patek Philippe? That's an ellipse. $3,000. You don't want it. It's not worth $3,000. Oh, really? Huh. Yeah. Okay. Wow. I guess you learn something every day.
I actually don't mind it. I'd buy it on a discount. I don't mind these watches. I think they're all right. It's just a different. It's a '60s style that was very stylish at the time. Just hasn't dated very well over time. So some people love it, some people hate it. Ooh. And look, I'll pull up a gondola that Archie loves that I absolutely can't stand. And Did you nuke yourself here? Like, what happened?
Apologies, I clicked the wrong button. I wanted to check the messages and just booted myself off.
Yeah, I was like, what's happening here? This is a gondola that Archie absolutely loves, and you guys will remember this is the Mr. 2 Patek Philippe 5111. I just can't stand this
Will
watch.
Sanders also is a big fan of the
I can't
gondola.
stand this watch. I don't know. Do you guys like this watch?
I'm
can't
with
stand
you,
it.
Tan.
I'm indifferent.
Road Mutation says he was surprised by how big the ellipse is. He thought it was small.
Well, you can go to older variants of the ellipse. they made it in virtually any imaginable size. So get vintage, and you can find them in all kind of sizes.
Let's talk about a brand we don't usually talk about here, Jonathan. Let's talk about AP.
Rolex?
No, we talk. Well, Jonathan doesn't like to talk about Rolex, but him and I don't really get to chat
That's
much
why I want to talk about Rolex.
Talk about AP and not only APs but AP offshores, the ones that nobody likes. Higgins, is there any AP offshore that you actually do enjoy? I like this.
Let's just go through the entire shebang right now and see if we can find something that we like either individually or collectively. Sometimes just looking what's on the website.
I didn't know they made this in a ceramic. Because this one's different than the one that Hofon Smash has, I believe.
Yeah, that is new to me that they made it in ceramic. But Tanzil, you're painting me with a broad brush, because there are many APs that I like. I draw the line with ceramic bezels. I want a ceramic bezel on a Royal Oak. I could not live without it.
Matt Lindell says this is hideous. Hideous. I don't mind this one. I think it's all right. I know for Hofon Smash being in the music industry, that means a lot.
That's for Duty Robson.
Yeah, anybody in the music industry, I think, would be interested. I think this is the one Hoff has, the titanium version,
or possibly Tetris.
Can you go back, because there is this John Player colored one on the left? No. Left.
This one,
for example, I like that one.
God, what the hell is wrong? No, I'm just kidding. That's all right.
Not bad. Jonathan, where in Europe you're going to see someone wearing a $54,000 Swiss franc self-winding chronograph from the Royal Oak offshore lineup?
Well, at least now they have a decent movement, which is not totally undersized in the offshore chronograph. I wouldn't want to be caught dead with a watch that has yellow gold accents, but I find it kind of cool, and I think the typical offshore aficionado may appreciate that.
Yeah, I don't mind it.
I like the new End of Days limited edition as well, with the black with the yellow highlight. You know where I'm coming from there. They just introduced, I think, a special edition or a re-edition of the last daylight, or what was it? Yeah,
it's the End of Days.
End of Days, yeah. End of Days.
I have it up on the screen here. You like your yellow accents on your...
Yeah, but I think that is the old one. The new one has the flat pushers. I think that is the vintage one.
AP End of Days. Let's have a
look. They just announced the re-edition of that. A little bit modernized and pretty cool.
Oh yeah, here we go.
Yep. I think they worked on the flaws of the old one. So, for example, the Arab numerals are gone now. They have normal batons. The flat pushers are there instead of those round pushers. So and the movement is far bigger and more appropriate. What's your opinion about that?
Yeah, it's not bad. I know you love your yellow accents, so this definitely to me speaks Jonathan Quayle Higgins' version of AP. But hey, man, they have more watchmaker hours than many brands. So they must be better, right? They must be better.
Well, we don't know if in that stats, and that was an interesting question that the professor asked. now that Renault et Papi is AP, are those high-end pieces named Richard Mille counted in that stats or not?
I don't think they are.
I don't think they are as well, because I think the database on what the journalist was working on was a couple of years old and was predated to the time when AP equaled Renault et Papi.
What do you think of this red wine dial? We'll call it a red wine dial.
Not with me.
No, you don't like your red?
Blue would be okay, but those first generation dials are not really my taste.
30,000 Swiss francs, boys. 30,000 Swiss francs.
Yeah. For an AP, there could be worse.
Whenever I come to the Code 1159 section, I can never really find anything I like outside of the Aventurine Perpetual.
Well, there is one.
Oh, your Star Wheel?
No. I'm talking about the Sonnerie with the beautiful enamel dial by Anita Porcher.
Let's have a look. Like for me, this is the
Try
one.
to find the most expensive one.
This is the one I do like. This is
Yeah.
Aventurine dial Perpetual Calendar. Like
That's the winner.
yeah.
And to everyone,
as opposed to a wiener.
My quest goes out there. If you haven't seen an Aventurine dial, go out and try to see one in real life. They're mind-blowing. They're absolutely beautiful.
This is your Super Sonnerie you're talking about?
No, the old variant is nicer with the circles. I think that is Pioneer.
Oh.
I don't know if it's still on the website. May not be there anymore,
Yeah,
Jonathan.
just Google AP Sonnerie Anita Porcher, and you will find it. Porsche with a P, just like Porsche.
Huh.
Yeah, I know how he spells it. Let's see here. There's one that... Oh, yeah, here we go.
Have a look at that.
Is this really, Clyde, is this your cup of tea?
No. It's not even a cup, like, even as in the concept of a athletic supporter.
Yeah, like, Jonathan, I can appreciate this, but in my mind, this is more of a Clyde type of a watch right here. Like, if we're gonna get bubbles, right? It's gonna be this.
Well, yeah,
I had great respect for you until you were comparing that Sonnerie now with the bubble dial.
The bubbles. Hey, man, we're looking at the Sonnerie with
now compare that with bubbles, and now compare that with bubbles from Trailer Park Boys.
Yeah, Tenzil, you know that I will be bombarded with messages now from Swiss who is mocking you on you.
That's fine, man.
For doing that comparison.
Well, hey, it's which bubbles dials do you prefer?
Come on.
Do you prefer the Carillon Super Sonnerie or?
It's not the first time a German's been bombarded.
That's true.
Or do you prefer this bubbles dial or do you prefer this bubbles dial? It's and Man from Sofia says the 1159 is the Jules Audemars.
Yeah, it is.
Or it's taken over from the Jules Audemars.
It is just with a new dress, and that is what AP is trying now for decades to find their second leg.
You see, I don't. If they really wanted something that would capture the spirit of Rolex, they would have indices on the Oyster Perpetual, but each one would be a raised middle finger.
What else is out here, Jonathan? I'm looking at monochrome here. We got this Strom piece with Fratello watches collaboration with this very interesting red dial. Clyde doesn't seem interested.
Can you pull up that beautiful monopusher chronograph by Montblanc?
Is it a recent?
Yeah. It was featured on monochrome.
Give me a sec. Oh, this is the new Minerva one, yeah.
Yeah, and let me introduce you by saying I'm a big fan of Montblanc. I'm not a fan of Montblanc watches, but that I really like for several reasons.
Is the first reason because it's using a Calatrava case?
Well, it is a DLC coated steel case, which is aged. Then they put the case into a drum with crystals or with rocks, and it looks then a little bit distressed. You will be able to see it when you see the close-ups of the case.
Yeah, let me scroll down here. I think that might be the only. Oh, here we go.
Yep. So you can see that the DLC coating is worn off on the edges.
Clive, any comment on the Montblanc? So we got a column wheel lateral clutch chronograph here, Jonathan.
Yes, we have.
Why is it a vertical clutch?
It's not a vertical clutch; it's a horizontal clutch.
But maybe you scroll up to see the watch as a whole. What Montblanc did, Tanzil, you may have had this kind of discussion where you say, "Oh, the watch is looking much nicer on the case back than on the dial." I'm pretty sure you had this kind of discussion with the collector. So what Montblanc did was they were turning around the movement, and what you see here is the view that you usually would have through the case back.
It's true. I don't dislike it. It's all right. Would you consider this a true skeletonized dial or an open work?
I would say it's open work. It's not skeletonized to my definition. But I think it's a very. We started the show with a philosophical question, and now we are into philosophy again. I think it's a neat idea to show the case back of traditional and very nicely finished chronograph movement at the front. And it took a lot of effort, because if you think about it, if you flip around the chronograph movement and show it then through the dial, you have several problems to solve. One is usually the running second is on the left side, on the left subdial. And it is on this particular watch, but they had to rearrange the subdials for that. Because if you simply flip the movement around, it will be the other way around. Also, that running second would run backwards. Same with a chronograph counter and with a minute counter. So they had to put some true effort to make this work from a technical point of view. And on top, you have a monopusher.
Do you like these are the cathedral hands? Like,
no,
I'm not a big fan of these.
But everything else, I really like. I like the concept.
It's a strange design to put cathedral hands on this kind of a piece.
Yeah, but they always do that, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's just I get it. It's just weird. Like, if they're gonna design it this way to have, this sportier look, like, it just throwing cathedral hands kind of doesn't do it for me. But Chris says, get Don Haynes on to yell, if you want a Montblanc, buy a pen.
Yeah,
I do have
we do have a question from the general here. He's asking, Higgins, what about Lang and Heine? So I'm going to be pulling them up.
The company is called Lang and Heine and not Lange.
Lang and Heine.
Hey, Higgins, what about Wang and Heine?
No comments.
So we got a Frederick II here on the screen. So I know you don't like the Frederick III, so I pull up a Frederick II.
Yeah, my main beef.
Oh, I'm sorry. I meant to ask that to Mark Goldberg. My bad.
So Lang and Heine has better movement finish compared to Lange and Söhne. Super interesting watches. What really bothers me is the third lug. I'm on the record of saying, yeah. You can say, okay, you can't have enough lugs, and I make the comparison. Just imagine you date a supermodel with 3 legs. nobody's saying, well, you like
What about one
legs.
with like 3 nipples, Jonathan? With 3 nipples?
No,
bottom?
like 3 legs.
Yeah,
You mean like John Holmes, right?
Yeah, with like a 3rd nipple
No,
bottom.
wait, no, wait. That's
let's
sorry.
not
That's a
go
porn.
there
That's a porn
with
actor,
nipples.
not a supermodel. Okay.
I
Sorry,
stick
my
with
bad.
the legs on a supermodel, and so 2 is enough, and too much is too much, and even step upwards to Lang and Heine is Marco Lang, because Marco Lang left the company and he made an incredible watch, which is called Zweigesicht, which has very, very nice movement finishing and also very interesting features.
I don't mind this 3rd lug, Jonathan. I don't know why you're being so OCD about it. It's not that bad.
Yeah, I'm what I am. I can't help myself.
Like when you compare this to like the Frederick III, like the 2nd is much nicer. I like the hand configuration on this one.
Holmel says the Heinrich and Lang and Heine Heinrich, that is the square one, and that has gorgeous movement finishing, I must say, or movement construction. The square one.
Well, there's 2 of them. There's the Anton, and
no,
then there's
take the one in the middle,
one?
row. Yep.
Yeah,
on the
this
left or the right?
is the George.
Jorg.
Here, have a look.
Wow.
Now, are they using gold movements?
I think it's gold plated, as far as I know.
Mm-hmm.
I think they are also using German silver and then gold plated.
That's what I was wondering. I mean, I would have expected German silver, but yeah, it's interesting. But it seems like they're sandblasting the plate as well.
I think they're not sandblasting. I think that it's a special kind of frosting. It's not tremblage, as far as I know, but it is not only that they take a sandblaster. There's a little bit more effort.
There's no hand engraving here, Jonathan. Like, we're disappointed from this German brand to not have hand engraving.
Yes, not all German brands have hand engraving on the balance card, which is, by the way, a balance bridge here.
Let's look at some more.
What I don't like is that very, very historic design of the dials, of the hands, in addition to the 3rd lug.
Yeah, but this is what people expect Patek Philippe to be doing, right? Is using these Roman numerals and an old style like layout of hands, and that's what they see in the brand, right? And on the flip side, people are like, "Well, I don't like this because it's a little old manish," right? Like,
yeah, but this is even more conservative with those Baroque hands and
Baroque. Wait, they're naming their hands after the former president?
All right, boys, we got the Francis Ford Coppola piece. The FP. I think someone asked Archie what FFC meant, and I don't think he answered the question. He just kind of moved on. He's like, "Yeah, it's expensive. I don't like it." So, Jonathan, if you want to go through the hand layout, I can pull up what the because they have different.
So this started as a piece unique, and it was spectacular when FP Journe showed that. I think the way of displaying the time has been done by an ancient Greek sculpture or something like that, and to convert that technology into a wristwatch is really something very special. And you can see so this hand shows the amount of hours, and then there is a minute indicator, but the star of the watch is the hand in the middle. So the number of fingers or the code shows the number of hours.
So is that why Greek sculptures never had shoes or clothes?
No. That is a different one.
Okay. Because it would only be
I'm on the record of saying I'm happy that they found a code for telling the time without a raised middle finger alone.
So Saad's asking if I like Lang and Heine, and I do. I do feel that the designs are a little dated, and if they made a more contemporary design on the dial as well as the case and the lugs, I would probably say they could definitely have a hit. But I think that the conservative design it's going to polarize a bunch of buyers.
Of course, the difference between 3 and A is how they caught the guy on Inglorious Bastards at the tavern, at the pub.
MCM says, had a Langenheine, good finishing, gorgeous finishing.
Gorgeous.
Too bad Marco left the brand.
Yep, that was quite a scandal or significant that Marco Lang then left the company and went his own way.
So this question goes without
Ooh.
answer. You know this. You know the answer to this one.
Langen
and Hyman.
Wang and Hyman.
What you have to keep in mind, Tanzil, when criticizing that very old-fashioned design, you have to keep in mind that those little companies like Langenheine or Marco Lang, they produce a handful or probably a couple of dozen of watches per year. They don't have the resources from a human point of view and also from a financial point of view to hire a designer or to put an important investment into their design.
Yeah, but you don't need a Gerald Genta to tell you that Roman numerals are a bit old manish. Like,
yeah, but think of it. A client of Langenheine is probably older than the traditional Patek.
Yeah, I'm not saying that they're doing it wrong. I said to answer Saad's question, I said for it to appeal to me, I would need something a bit more contemporary.
Yeah.
Oh.
You have to remove the finger, and at 2, it will be the middle finger. I was waiting for Clyde to ask which one is the middle finger. Which number would be the middle finger?
Too easy. Sorry. No.
Well, it was just funny because someone asked Archie, "Do you know what FFC stands for?" And he completely ignored the question. It was really funny. We got Roto Mutation who's asking questions regarding the new Chopard 1860 in salmon. I think we saw this earlier, but I'll pull this up. I love it as I have the original from the 90s with a 1.96 caliber. But is it worth the asking price for over 20K for a steel case?
There are a couple of Chopards. There are a couple of Chopards I love, and one of which is they do a really, really, really great job of knocking off the Simplicity 34. Perfect.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about at the moment.
It is.
Check it out.
Yeah. Yep. Oh shit. Here we go. Hell yeah, son.
So this was a new release, right? This came out.
That is the new release in the original size of 36.5 millimeters with the gorgeous Metablam dial that Clive will now mention that it's also made for his Lyric watch.
No, it was also made for
Philippe
Dufour.
Yes.
So his real question is really around: is this worth the money? Right, like for $20,000. Is this, and look, this is a Geneva Seal movement, Geneva Seal case.
Yep.
It's definitely finished to a high standard. I actually like the look of this watch.
I do too. Well, yeah, because it's based on the Simplicity 34. One of the best. I mean, one of the
very balanced watch.
Yeah, it's a balanced watch for unbalanced people.
The question is just 23,000 for the steel or 40,000 if they made it in white gold.
No.
Yeah.
I'd wait. I'd wait for it to come down, or wait. Maybe people will sell the old.
No, they won't come down. People discovered the first generation 1860s, and even on the secondary market.
Or the Mark IIIs. The Mark IIIs. Oh.
Roto Mutation was that watch is a wonder. So Roto Mutation, if you want to put in the chat, if you saw this piece in person and what your thoughts were. Obviously, pictures don't always tell the best story. I think from a design perspective, this is a really nice looking watch, and the movement looks really nice too. So damn, I don't know if this is going to stay at 20,000 though, Jonathan. Like on the secondary, it probably will drop.
I think they are only producing like 100 of them per year, so I doubt that they will really drop. Collectors have started to discover those LUCs.
I love them.
First generations.
I love LUCs.
The Mark III, you mean?
The Mark what?
Mark III?
I don't know if it's the Mark III. I'm going to pull up Jonathan's favorite LE Chopard here for everybody to see.
Yes. Good memory, Tanzil.
I have the memory of an elephant.
That is just gorgeous. By the way, there is an enamel dial.
So in other words, we have to remind you about January 6th every day, or?
Why would you?
Because you keep forgetting about it. You have the memory of an elephant.
So He says that the loosened steel is 50% stronger and lighter than regular steel.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if that's just a little bit of marketing there, whole milk, but he said, he said they did not have the 1816 at Watches and Wonders. That's unfortunate because it is a very nice looking watch, Road Mutation. That would have been one, I think, for you to have seen in person to actually make that decision. But look, it's a great looking watch. I think if like Jonathan's saying they're being very made in limited numbers, but I don't.
Yeah, I think it's not a limited edition, but I think they announced that they're only making 100 or 200, and they're exclusively selling them through their boutiques, by the way, as well.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
This is so they market this watch as ethical rose gold. It's
Yes.
ethical. It's an enamel dial. It's a jump. It's a jump hour.
Jump hour.
Yeah.
4 mainspring barrels. That is why it's called the Quattro.
4 mainspring barrels. See it on the wrist. Oh, it looks beautiful.
My only niggle that I have with this watch.
Excuse me, your only what, sir?
I would love to see that in white gold or platinum.
Yeah, I think Swiss was trying to, when we brought this up a few weeks ago, Swiss was thinking it was a bit thick, but when we actually looked it up, it wasn't a super thick.
Of course it's thick. It has two double barrels stacked over each other. That watch can't be super slim.
I don't think it was super slim, but I don't think it was actually, when we looked it up, it wasn't as thick as he thought it was, but definitely a really nice looking watch.
Swiss is just a bad mood guy. He always complains.
Bad news bears. This one's for you, Rancher from Fort Colossus. That one-hander is what Bill Sanders wanted to make, no?
I'm sorry, what?
I think he's asking about this one.
We're talking about the FP Journe.
Was it the FP Journe or something like this, like the Ellie Chopard, which is the jump hour? It's like a one-hander. He's just asking if this is a design that Bill Sanders was considering for the Lyrique Etude #1 or #2.
No.
Big Jordan New York is asking, can you show us the watch that this is a homage to the LUC? Is this an homage to something else? LUC.
Well, it's a homage to the first LUC.
Age.
I think that it was also called 1860.
Oh.
Let's have a look.
And you get a movement constructed by Michel Parmigiani.
Oh, I'm getting confused with it being the Quattro we're talking about. So here we go. This is the one that Road Mutation was talking about with the this movement from '97. So this is an OG. Interested, Clyde, or not interested? This is not.
No.
No, it's not for you. This is the one Roadie Mutation was talking about, Jonathan. That he has. So he's considering upgrading to the new one, but was asking if it was worth it over the 20,000. Holy fuck! I'm not even sharing anything here.
Well, I wouldn't. I would if he has the first generation with the '96 movement. I would keep it. Don't buy the new one. If you have the old one, keep it.
Here, I'll show you what I'm at.
Corbin says Bill Sanders originally proposed a one-hander rather than the Lyrique that they ended up with. I didn't know that.
Okay.
Yeah, Big George is talking about the 1860. Yeah, so we have it up on the screen, Big George. This is the.
I'm not a historian.
Yeah, this is the original 1860.
Yep.
Oh.
Beautiful watch, though.
Metalum dial. The question is the salmon dial more attractive than that one?
I'd say so, yeah. That not knocking that dial, that watch, yeah, but no. Same with.
So what are your thoughts about that simplicity that has been done by Philippe Dufour's daughter? That has been also shown. I think Odinky featured it on Monochrome. I just saw that.
What, you mean Daniela Dufour?
Yes. She made a simplicity in a lady size with a black dial. Gorgeous watch. Looks absolutely stunning on her.
believe it's this one.
No.
It's not this one.
No.
Oh wow, yeah. So yeah.
No, it was either Hodinkee or Monochrome. I think it was featured on Hodinkee.
Quill and Pad, as I'm saying it, but oh.
Yeah, I think it's. I think this is the. All right, here we go.
That's it.
Okay, let me look. Yes. Oui.
There we go.
Oui. We 1,000 times oui.
What does that mean, Clyde? You
Yes.
approve or not?
Yes.
He's saying we.
Not like I would we on it.
The funny anecdote about that is apparently they had an interview with Daniela Dufour and Philippe Dufour, and Philippe Dufour was surprised that she made a plaque with her name on it. He didn't even know that.
Okay.
Where's the? Oh yeah, here we go. It's right here. Daniela Dufour, right there.
Yep.
Look at these internal angles here, Jonathan. We've got a bunch of them.
Yeah.
We've got a bunch of them on what's considered potentially the greatest watch of the modern time.
I think from what I see, but I have to compare those watches in real life. To me, the Geneva stripes don't look as sharp as Philippe Dufour, and also the angles are not as wide as Philippe Dufour. But apparently, I think that was her how do you say when she finished her education. So a kind of masterpiece. I think she will perfection her skills, and she's only getting better.
I'm about to scream, leave Brittany alone, but you know.
Thomas Broadbent says Montblanc is a name. I cannot even attach a human to them. The only way forward for Montblanc is to eat the people make the watches. Until then, I see them as a depreciating time widget. Very strong words.
Well, you could attach people in Montblanc, but you see they would be like climbing up, and they got caught in like ice, and the ice didn't melt. Then you would have people attached to Montblanc.
Yeah, Thomas Broadbent.
What kind of? I wonder what kind of person then this guy is connecting to Rolex. Is it Hans Wilsdorf?
Not very good people.
Jacques Cousteau.
Horrible people.
Dufour is the man, just like Laurent Ferrier. So we have a friend of mine who's looking at between. I'll ask you this question, Jonathan. A Grunefeld, a Principia. Let's go to Grunefeld.
Oh, that's why you asked that question.
No, I was looking at my own, but this is a friend of mine who's looking at.
But allow me to have one sentence about Daniela Dufour. We had that discussion about the future of those independent brands, and it's great to see that Philippe Dufour has somebody who follows in his footsteps. Just like Sven Andersen, who is now 80, found Alex, who is willing and able to continue the brand.
All right, we got a bit of a battle here, Jonathan. We got the Principia automatic salmon dial from Grunefeld, or this Laurent Ferrier I have on the screen. So I told my advice was go with Laurent Ferrier over the Grunefeld. I think this is a cooler looking piece. I like this ice blue dial, and I think he'd be happy. He's been leaning towards Laurent Ferrier, and I think he's been kind of swayed with a bunch of the talk about Grunefeld. I think this is just a cooler looking watch.
Does he want the square case or the round case?
He doesn't mind it. He doesn't mind this case shape. This is the shape this is a specific picture he sent me, was between this one and the Principia.
So personally, I don't like the Gallet square. But I'm only a random guy on the internet, so that is only my taste. Other than that, I think Laurent Ferrier with a micro rotor movement and with a natural escapement has the slight edge over Grunefeld.
Road of Mutation agrees. He says Laurent Ferrier all the way. The blue sport is a cool watch. Clivers, what do you think?
The blue sport. We're talking about the.
I'm courageously saying
likes-
I don't think you could go terribly wrong with either choice.
America, we're doing hood streaming with Jonathan Quill Higgins. We're taking it to the streets.
What is hood streaming?
Nah, it's because Big Meech said there's nobody good streaming, but wrote hood streaming. And so America says, are we doing hood streaming here? We're only talking bust down watches with Jonathan Quill Higgins. I don't think he got the joke, but
Can you flip? Can you flip the watch?
But it's not going to be the first time a German to get a joke.
I don't know if he gave me a picture of it flipped around, so I don't have it. But if we're talking watches that Jonathan Quill Higgins is really into, I'm gonna pull one up here. The Eye of the Tiger.
Oh,
Rolex.
Oh God!
Piss me off. I think it's time to leave now.
You know who? I just have a funny story about this because Poway apparently was shown this watch at his AD, and the Poway then came on the stream. I don't know, and tried to talk about how if you have less money, you're more likely to get access to these watches. And I think he went on it with OC or something like that for a little bit. And I was just like, the argument was just very funny. And then number two, I just asked Poway, I'm like, did you actually just buy this watch? Because if you got offered it at retail, you could flip it. Why did you not buy it? He apparently he turned it down. But Clyde, you're from the state of the Tiger King. This would be the ideal Tiger King watch.
In prison or what? I mean, help me out here.
Well, hey, he's got something.
I guess if you take enough meth, anything will look good.
We've got Tromps Broadband who says Rolex is a solid watch, predictable, a life partner that we can imprint and share our experiences, merging personality, except that disaster.
Wow.
Not a lot of love for the Eye of the Tiger, but Chris says, in fact, Steven Tyler wears one. That doesn't.
Yeah, that would fit his personality, I would say.
Yep. I, on the other hand,
and I'm pretty sure that this type of watch looks fantastic on many women.
Yes. And if they were not wearing tops, I'd hardly look at it.
And tiger printed yoga pants come to my mind.
Yes.
All right, let's go from really gaudy to a little gaudy.
Oh, thank you. That's so classical and refined.
All right, Higgins. Eisenkiesel?
Eisenkiesel, not my style.
No, but I pronounce it properly because everyone calls it Eisenkiesel.
And you made it good. Yeah,
Eisenkiesel. Yeah, a lot of people are after this piece as well, and
I don't get it.
It's a stone dial. It's a nice looking dial. I don't mind.
Eisenkiesel in
a stoned dial.
Eisenkiesel, a kiesel is what you find on the bottom of a river. Those are those pebble-shaped stone. That is a kiesel. So kiesel is a word in German that holds no luxury, nothing exclusive. So probably it's just the name that turns me off.
So this one's for you, Jonathan. I'll read it out for you from Casey Jones, Brooklyn. Spending time in the Rolex booth at Watches and Wonders would be like going to New York City and eating Domino's pizza.
I agree. And let me add, if you're only exclusively at Watches and Wonder and don't visit the independents, it is still like eating Domino's pizza in New York.
Yeah, because I think that Lange, they weren't actually at the watch. They were at a hotel or something, right? They weren't necessarily.
No. I think there was a Lange booth at Watch.
Oh, then it might have been open to the public. I think they may have moved offsite after that, then into the non-public time or the public time. Yeah.
I wasn't there, and I really have regrets not having missed out on Watches and Wonders. But the independents were incredible. And additionally, Patek opened that exhibition of rare handcrafts in their own museum, and there are some spectacular pieces there, which I really would like to see.
Yep, I'll pull up the Jonathan Quill Higgins extra photo as well in a second. Toyota Mo says, "I've seen this watch and wore it in real life. The Eye of the Tiger deserves respect." And we have a Captain Shitter wristwatch superhero who says, "Hey man, it's Beazles Kiesels, man." And we got a nice and Kiesel owner himself here, George Varghese, who says, this Eisenkiesel is the best date to own. Great show, Tan. Good to see you, George. I know you have one of these, so you can definitely give us some perspective on it. MCM says the GLC engraving station was cool to see. Clyde, are you setting up the air fryer here in the back? What are you doing?
I think he's moving.
Yes and no. Go ahead. Sorry to take away from the never-ending live stream.
The live stream that
never dies.
Eisenkiesel. Everyone's trying to learn the pronunciation here, Jonathan.
No, it's good.
Hey, we got CB in the chat. There was a large Lange booth, not well designed, but they had a large one.
Yeah, they had the Odysseus chronograph
No.
in gigantic size.
All right, I'm going to pull up some rare handicrafts for everybody because I know Jonathan wanted to talk about rare handicrafts. So let's pull up the rare handicrafts here. And let's get into the Jonathan Quill Higgins extra watch, I call it. Because for all that don't know, Jonathan Quill Higgins was actually, if you actually don't want to know what he looks like, he's an extra in one of these cars. And I believe this one is him right here. That is
the rumors are not true. The rumors are not true.
You were an extra in a James Bond film, but not in a Patek Philippe.
That is true.
A Patek Philippe watch. So this looks like it's a 6119, but apparently this uses I think the 240 movement or something.
Yes, it has a 240 movement, and it is an enamel dial with different techniques. It is cloisonné and also something else. I forgot those names. And they're only making 5 of them, as far as I know.
Yeah, I know that I was reading on Rolex forums that there are a couple people that were applying for these, and they were just like, they were talking about how extremely difficult it is to actually get one of these. So, yeah, I actually looked this up prior to, because these were up before Watches and Wonders new releases came out. So this was one of the few things I was looking into. I don't know if you looked at any of the other ones, like the pocket watches and stuff like that. But this style looks very similar to the piece that CB is looking to apply for the minute repeater.
Like the previous one. That is micro painting. Just look at that. That is an amazing piece of art.
CB, now
there is a very nice video. I think it's 4 minutes video about this exhibition, which is really interesting.
I just want to pump CB's tires a bit here, because CB, earlier in the show, I don't know if you were watching, I was telling Jonathan how I would take this watch, the 5178G, the one that you're applying for, the minute repeater, over, and this is very controversial because Jonathan thought it was absolutely off my rocker, over his favorite, the 5531G.
You're being a little bit dramatic.
Well, you got to be dramatic. It's the ArchieLuxury channel.
I told you I would prefer the world timer with the cloisonné dial over that, but I was not shitting on the other one. Give me that credit.
What do you think of these hollowed out lugs on this one?
It's a little bit code 1159-ish.
Yeah, I just noticed that, and I was like, I don't know if I like that on this one or not.
You know, I would totally accept those lugs when I glance over that cloisonné dial.
Hey George, if you're America or anybody wants to hop on, I'll just drop the link. And you can tell us about the Eisenkiesel, because our friend Higgins is trying to explain that the term Eisenkiesel does not depict luxury in the German language. But yeah, for CB, I was a big fan of the 5178G. I think it looks amazing. Hopefully, if you do get it on the orange strap, because I really like it on the orange strap.
I think it's significantly slimmer than the world charmer, isn't it?
10. I asked for the 5531, but too much medium legend for Patek Philippe. Yes, he actually did ask for the one that you wanted, but he ended up asking. I think so. CB, you didn't ask for this one, because if you didn't ask for this one, this is the one I'd be asking for. I love this piece.
So I didn't ruffle too many feathers by.
Ooh, comes with both straps. Yeah, I love the orange strap, man. I think that's what
yeah. But CB, I hope that you're only wearing it on the orange strap, because putting that turquoise greenish strap would be an insult to the watch.
Yeah, let me pull up the orange here for everyone to see.
That is gorgeous.
Yeah, it just looks killer, man. I love this style. Like this is one of my favorite releases this year from Patek Philippe. Hey George, no worries. Anytime anytime I'm online, just shoot me a ping or a text if you're free, and then I'll drop you the link. Watch Sasquatch says you cannot trust Patek as a brand. Quality control is apparently garbage, and even new watches often need warranty repair. Panel thoughts on the statement? I would disagree with that. I've owned many Patek Philippe's. None of them have required repair. I've owned older ones. I've owned newer ones. Haven't had an issue. In terms of quality control, the only rumors that I've seen, and again, I haven't found too many independent people that have had this issue, was centered around the finishing on the anglage, where they could still see some machining marks when they took a loop to it. But I mean, I've looped most of my Pateks, and I haven't seen that same. I mean, it's very easy to see. It's not hard to be able to see machining marks in anglage. It's really not if you're actually taking a loop to it. But yeah, I don't know, Jonathan, if you've heard otherwise on any other comments he's making here.
I can't really comment on it because I'm not I'm not too much in touch with Patek collectors. From the
Even though you
few
talk to
that
me
I've-
every day, even though he talks to me every day.
Yeah, but you're not a Patek collector. You're a one watch guy.
One watch guy, yes.
So,
yes.
from other Patek collectors that I heard from, there are no complaints about quality control. So yeah, shit happens everywhere, and yeah.
I wonder if I can pull up the 5035 error dial. Yeah, let's see if I can find this one. This is an error dial. Come on, I need to get a good picture here. Let's see if I can find it on images. Yeah, there's one that was really funny. It's a salmon error dial, and they have it on.
By the way, this kind of enamel with a guillochage underneath, we're doing that on my Fabergé egg as well. But the base material on my Fabergé egg is sterling silver, and this is supposedly gold, isn't it?
Yes, it is gold. It is gold. So Der Stiefel, Das Boot, is saying, aka Grand Seiko sucks, says you take a loop to a Patek and take a sledgehammer to a Grand Seiko. So our friend Der Stiefel is he's a newly reformed
Grand
watch
Seiko
collector.
hater, but he couldn't be.
Well, he's owned many Grand Seikos. Not a hate. The guy's owned many Grand Seikos in the past. He used to be down the rabbit hole with Grand Seiko.
Yeah, but if you take a loop on a Grand Seiko and then you take a sledgehammer, I don't know what you've seen. I've owned a couple of Grand Seikos, and with the loop, they are fantastic. So I don't know what you mean.
Well, I do like his name, aka Grand Seiko sucks, because it is the appropriate name. Because we do have Jonathan on the panel, who's a big Grand Seiko fan. And Toyota says Ali doesn't have a Patek. I never really heard Ali say that. I think Ali's only said Patek's just not a brand for him.
There is a question about the pronunciation, and it's actually it's Patek and not Patek.
Patek Philippe. He's saying that he's not happy with the quality control. Again, right? Like, I don't think he owns any Patek Philippe, so it's you can take it from me. I've owned like multiple Patek Philippe's, and I've never had an issue with mine. So I have also never had an issue with an AP either. So that go with what that's worth as well.
I didn't have an issue with my AP as well.
And you've owned your AP for
wearing
a while,
it as
right?
a beater, so yeah.
And you've had it for a while, and you've obviously, because you sent me photos where you were swimming with it in the ocean and stuff like
Yep.
that, and you've had no issues with that watch.
No problem, no.
Yeah, and it's a ROC diver, right?
Yes.
Yeah. But yeah, no, this is my favorite Patek Philippe release of the year. Obviously, well out of the range. It's a minute repeater, and
apparently only for medium legends.
Only for medium legends, yes. I did ask CB if he was applying for the. I'll show you this one. It's the sapphire dial piece, and he said he's not a big enough client for that. This is the 5136 50p piece right here. So this is a minute repeater, tourbillon, retrograde, a perpetual calendar, and sapphire dial. Very cool. but very much out of the range. So we've got a super chat here from Hugh G. Rection, $2, who says, best Patek to pair with cargo shorts and Crocs. I'll let you guys answer first, and then I'll answer. What do you think, Jonathan? Best Patek to pair with cargo shorts and Crocs?
Probably an Aquanaut.
Aquanaut for Jonathan. Mr. Clive, Minotaur Wrangler. What do you think?
I think Clyde has left.
Clyde's out to lunch, man. So I'll answer for Clyde, and I'll answer for everybody. The best Patek Philippe to wear, dress down. It's not in the Calatrava collection. It is in the Complications collection, and it is right here, boys. Simple, easy to wear with everything. If I could just share my screen, you guys will see it. It is Jonathan Quill Higgins' favorite Patek Philippe of the modern collection. A watch that he sees almost every day.
Yeah, almost.
Almost. I don't send you. Sometimes I don't send you the 5212. My boy Toyota Mo will love it. So yeah. CB is saying he had an issue with his Octo Finissimos Bulgari, broke within a month. And Booster says the world time. Let's see a world time for your everyday. Now they don't have many world times anymore. I thought they were going to refresh this collection this year, but they didn't. So we'll pick. Let's pick a Cloisonné dial for Jonathan. This is a white gold 5231 Cloisonné dial world timer.
So what do I do? What do I do? I'm living here in Europe, and I'm buying this watch, and there is not even Europe shown on this particular dial. What do I do?
Well, you're just gonna have to live with the fact that Europe is not the center of the universe.
No, but that would be a big no-no for me.
Yeah, world timers can get very specific with people because they want to have some kind of a tie to the piece. And you're right. Like some people, this wouldn't make any sense, and others. And I think the Celestial Voyager, you can choose your map layout because I know that you chose yours specifically.
Yeah.
And there's other folks that would choose a different layout that wouldn't make any sense for you to own.
Yeah, right.
Actually,
I've seen one of the Voyagers with China in the center.
Yeah, I mean, it's personalized. Archie's asking if Patek discontinues the 5227s, the Calatrava, the classic design Calatrava, will they redesign or remove it completely? This is a good question. So for you, Archie, I'll pull up the Calatrava collection, and what you'll notice of the collection is I think they've modernized it to the point of where they're going to stick to it for a little bit, and I'll tell you why. So he's talking about the 5227. So this model was released in the 2010s. It was the revamp of the 5127 that everybody knows about, and does have a bit of a more classic design. And I think it's a bit outdated for today's collector or the collectors that they're trying to go after. Where you see, something like this 6007. They've obviously produced a Calatrava with a more contemporary dial and strap layout that is a bit more, what a younger collector may be seeking if they're going to come into the brand. So here's one that they've already revamped, and then secondly, I believe that this is actually really the successor to the 5227 and the 5226, where you have Arabic numerals, Clou de Paris on the side of the case.
No, but you have to keep in mind that they have to cater also the seasoned collector. So
absolutely.
That can't be exclusive.
The season collector is right here, baby. The season collector, the old guys that want the classic design are going to get the 6119 manual wind.
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure that they will also present a Calatrava without the hobnail dial because that is also kind of polarizing. So I think they will also introduce a successor of the watch that you just showed.
I don't know. I don't know if they're going to or not. I think that it's just not the way that they've been changing the Calatrava line. They are introducing pieces that just have completely different aesthetics that I just don't think. I think that they do already have a classical Calatrava that's there, and that is the 6119, which is popular. It is a watch that people do like. So yeah, that's just my opinion on it.
So Tanzil, to piss der Stiefel off, can you pull up that Crador sonnery with that Oren bell? It's a Crador sonnery.
Yep. Just Just give me a sec.
And actually, there is a teardown from the Naked Watchmaker.
Yeah, let's pull one up. Naked Watchmaker. Sonnery. I know I saw this on your stream. I'll bring up the breakdown here first. The deconstruction of the Creator. So here's the Sonnery.
Yes.
How many internal angles are on the bell here?
Not many.
Not many.
If I remember correctly, but there is beautiful white anglage all over the place, and I disliked the watch until I understood what Creator are doing that here. So this is a sonnerie, but not a sonnerie in the classical point of view, because this has a miniature Orin bell. So there are no gongs, no spiral gongs. Here you can see a true bell, and that bell has a striking sound. It goes through my bones when I hear that, and it is based on a Japanese tradition. Apparently, in the old days, there was a big bell being hit 3 times every 3 hours. And this kind of Orin bell functionality you find in that sonnerie.
Got a question from Higgins. Tan and Higgins, what do you think about the Beaver watch presented at the show? It's a good question. We may have to pivot real quick for our good friend CB. I'll pull up the Beaver piece. And you know what? I might even play the video if I can get the video up. Beaver Eternity is not. Let's see if I can get the video. Let's do the video here.
C'est impossible de mettre une passion à la retraite. Mon vrai destin, c'est d'être à la tête d'une petite entreprise avec des relations amicales, avec beaucoup de respect, beaucoup de passion.
C'est maintenant ou jamais, c'est une opportunité unique dans une vie. Autant on va donner la vie mécaniquement à des mouvements, autant là on donne la vie à un projet, à une philosophie, à une idée. Je dirais ce qui est difficile, c'est de monter un tel projet, surtout des produits à un tel niveau de complexité en un temps si réduit. On a mis 13 ou 14 mois à sortir ce premier produit. On a dû être poussé dans nos retranchements pour y arriver. L'humain est au centre. On parle souvent de produit, mais finalement le produit qu'on fait, il n'existerait pas sans les mains qui l'animent.
Les mains du miracle, c'est les mains qui vont maîtriser tout ce qui est invisible dans une montre. Le sommet de l'art, c'est de maîtriser, certes, ce qu'on peut voir, y compris ce qu'on ne peut pas voir. Les pierres ont toute une signification qui va au-delà de la simple couleur ou de leur beauté, afin de donner à la montre le dernier élément qui est un élément irrationnel et spirituel. Nous avons commencé par le mouvement qui s'appelle répétition minute, qui sonne les heures, les quarts d'heure et les minutes, qui a en plus un tourbillon, un micro-rotor. C'est un mouvement qui met beaucoup de temps à être maîtrisé.
On se dit dans 100 ans, si un horloger ouvre la pièce, il faut qu'il puisse se dire « Waouh, ils ont vraiment mis l'amour, ils ont vraiment aimé ce qu'ils ont fait, ils ont poussé l'exercice jusqu'au bout. » Rien doit être laissé au hasard. Le produit, pour qu'il prenne naissance, pour que son âme naisse, il faut vraiment que tout soit maîtrisé, même l'invisible.
Donc nous avons commencé par se positionner tout en haut, car par la suite, il sera plus facile de descendre.
All right, so that is the Beaver Carillon Minute Repeater Tourbillon. And the question is, what do we think, Jonathan Quill Higgins? What do we think?
Yeah, you know, I love Jean-Claude Beaver, and just from that little video clip, you can get a sense how it is when you're being energized by how he talks and what he does.
Jonathan, we got a big super chat, so we got to play the music here for the medium legend.
Na 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 na, baby super chat, baby super chat. Na 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 na, Baby super chat, baby super chat.
Bring in some super chats. Let's get this thing happening. Super chat, baby. Super chat. Let's get this on, baby.
Let's get this on, baby. Toyota Mo, $10. Thank you for the lunch break entertainment. Upvote and super chat this awesome channel. Thank you, Toyota Mo.
Thank you very much, Toyota.
So you were saying, Jonathan, go ahead.
I was underwhelmed. I was hoping to see something spectacular. For sure, it's an amazing watch. Minute repeater, tourbillon, automatic, carillon, everything.
And don't forget the Sodalite dial, the stone dial.
Sodalite dial, yes. So everything top notch. But I was expecting something spectacular and not just a variation of what Patek Philippe is doing. So,
okay, sorry about that. Did I miss anything?
No, we're just going through the Beaver watch right now.
Beaver?
Yeah.
Beaver.
Yeah, but Jonathan, I don't expect Beaver to be doing something low end, right? I don't think he's going to be doing a tool watch or anything like that.
But look at the design. That is so old-fashioned. That is just for rich old collectors. And I was hoping that Beaver would do something groundbreaking and spectacular.
Thomas Broadbent says he tried a little too hard and he felt it would be better if it was simple and elegant. And Toyota Mo says, boys, throw Higgins and Tan and Rancher an upvote, please. Thank you so much. I actually really like this watch. I think this is one of my favorite releases of the year. I disagree with Jonathan. I think the design is very nice and not old manish. I like the steel bracelet, not the steel bracelet, the bracelet. I like the Sodalite dial. I like the way the tourbillon looks very similar to the hands. Yeah, I think this is a home run. I don't know. Some people love it, some people hate it. I really love this watch.
Oh, it is for sure a home run, and he will sell as many as he's able to produce. I'm pretty sure it's going to be a financial success for him. And
because this piece is similar price to the Patek Philippe that we looked at as well.
Yes.
But
the minute repeater doesn't have a tourbillon.
It doesn't. But the question is that for the same money, are you buying this or are you buying the Beaver?
Yes.
So that's my question to you, Jonathan.
Well, I totally love that 5331.
5531.
I stick with it. Have you seen those hands? You see those hands. You find those on the vintage world timers, and that is what I particularly like on this watch.
So we got Beaver Fever, and Der Stiefel, aka Grand Seiko Sucks, says the Beaver watch is absolutely incredible, but damn, is it pricey. CB says it's like having a Rolls Royce on the wrist, but I would not spend $600K in a Beaver yet. And by the way, Kelsowitz, Jonathan Quill Higgins also says he likes the Laurent Ferrier over the Grunefeld. All right, boys. I'm going to wind down here. It's been almost 3 hours. We got ArchieLuxury coming up in about 2 hours. And, obviously I wanted to thank, Jonathan and Rancher for both hopping on. I know, Jonathan, you got a movie to watch tonight, and I do want to get your take on that movie when you're done. And for all those that, have been in the chat and participating and donating and everything, we really appreciate you guys obviously hopping on, sharing some, watch talk with us. We really enjoy doing this kind of stuff where we can engage with the folks in the chat. And Jonathan still has to prove to us that he's not all about the high-end watches. So I don't know, maybe Swiss and John this week, Jonathan, should be some low-end watches?
No Swiss and John show this weekend.
No Swiss and John show this weekend. No
worries. I
worries.
have other plans.
Jonathan's got other plans. All right, boys. I'm going to let you guys go. We'll see you guys in 2 hours, and thank you again.
What's in 2 hours?
Thank you for doing those shows.
What's in 2 hours?